Headquarters Afia House after protesting all day on Monday with an aim to pressurize the government to hire them on a permanent contract as well as issue them with their employment letters. Videos shared on social media networks showed the doctors chanting the national anthem, holding up the Kenyan flag as well as asking the Health CS Susan Nakhumicha to resign.
We are tired of being taken for granted.
Yes.
Our future cannot be held hostage.
Yes.
While we passively watch.
Yes.
The days of slavery and oppression are over. We know our rights. And it is our right to be posted within 30 days after completing our studies.
The enemy is one.
Yes.
Ministry of Health, headed by one lady who we don't know what her plan is with Kenyan medics. KMPDU, this is a message to you directly. We are coming for you.
Yes.
Be ready.
Be ready.
What will happen to Nakhumicha?
Will happen.
So it will set precedent to what we will do with you.
KMPDU Secretary General Davji Atela on his part says that they've had several meetings with the Ministry of Health as well as KNH management to see how to implement the 2017 CBA agreement that made them call off their 59-day strike earlier this year.
After calling off the strike, there were supposed to be 60 days of negotiations between KMPDU and the Ministry of Health. Interns are demanding for their legal posting.
I've never seen a ministry that's so dedicated to finish its workforce. As we speak here, we have 1,000 people seated at home after studying for 7 years with their parents who sold property to educate them. Doctors are committing suicide. So if this ministry does not want doctors, they should tell people early so that parents don't put their children through this system.
And Bumula MP Okoh has supported President William Ruto's announcement that public officials aged 60 and above should retire. He has, however, asked the President to start by cleaning up his own office.
Mheshimiwa Rais amesema anataka wale wamehitimu miaka 60 waende nyumbani. Mheshimiwa Rais, tunakubaliana na wewe, lakini anza na nyumba yako. Cabinet yako iko na watu 6, kama hujui ninaweza kukumbusha. Wamefika miaka 60. Wewe tuambie kwanza, mimi cabinet yangu nimepeleka nyumbani wale watu wa miaka 60. Msiingie tu kwa watu wadogo wadogo. Tuanze na maneno ya watu wakubwa.
He has also criticized the national government for deceiving Bungoma residents that it will help build the Masinde Muliro Kandui playground. President Ruto made the promise in the inauguration ceremony, but the responsibility has now been left for Bungoma County Government.
Rais Ruto amekuwa hapa akatuambia yeye sasa amepatia Bungoma County Stadium. Hao ma MCA watakwambia budget wamepitisha juzi ya county, wameweka hapo pesa ya stadium. Sasa mimi nauliza serikali, mnasema unasaidia sisi kujenga stadium na hapa county ndio inajenga stadium. So who's telling the truth? Mbona mnatudanganya? Mwache kudanganya watu wetu. Kama mambo ni mbaya sana, wachana na sisi. Presidents come and go.
Well, today seems like one of the long-awaited days as President William Ruto will this morning assent to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Amendment Bill. State House Press Secretary Emmanuel Talem said the event will take place at KICC at 9 a.m. This will be a shift from the norm where the President traditionally signs bills at State House. The new law will put the country's electoral management system in place, including paving way for the appointment of new IBC commissioners. The President has been put under pressure to sign the IBC bill amid calls by a section of Kenyans to recall their MPs for voting in favor of the impeached Finance Bill 2024. And in the international scene, the White House has fought back against questions about Joe Biden's mental fitness, with the US President telling anxious fellow Democrats it is time to end the criticism and daring doubters in the party to challenge him. In a tense news conference, the president's spokeswoman rejected suggestions that he might be suffering from an undisclosed illness. Biden, 81 himself, took the unusual step of calling in the morning show of MSNBC's, saying, "I am not going anywhere." Questions about his mental health have intensified since a poor debate performance against Donald Trump on 27th June. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
102.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
When you're impeached, you're impeached. When you're sentenced, you're sentenced.
Madam Chief Justice.
Until the sentence is set aside. Ukibeba vitu kwa roho utakufa. If you carry things in your heart, you will die.
The reason for which you went to school and then gathered experience, that reason must be paid for.
Oh, right.
Oh, okay.
This level.
Shape up or ship out.
Levels don't change.
No. Since about shipping up. You're my business partner here.
Shipping out.
Are we talking about the ship in the bathtub? Or
the ship man.
One of Talabu used to tell us a story of they were in school and they've been told to write composition about a ship. His classmate raises a hand. Teacher, are you talking about the ship or a ship goat?
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Patrick Lodge, Otieno Lumumba. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
CT Muga.
CT Lodge. Muga, not Muga.
He's here and here's the day's proverb.
One man marries a woman. Another man marries trouble. Is he the same man?
Spice.
A lion cannot eat more than 2 donkeys. It will die a natural death because there is no ICU in the forest. In Kenya, it has become the situation that you cannot conduct 2 elections. In fact,
with the same
Bukati,
IBC.
You can't.
I told you about this Indian friend of mine who was enjoying other Indians in the group. He wrote the word valve and told them, read it.
So how did he say it? I really want to know.
The valve. Of course, kina Ednah, it's the, like you said, the B's and the P's. Kila kitu mkisia kisema atasema opposite.
Opposite?
Ukisema hii anasema opposite.
Opposite.
Wewe ukisikiliza namna hii unasikia opposite.
The Situation Room, Spice, the only way to start your day.
We're into the second day of the second week of the 7th month. And what's happening on the streets this morning as we get into it this Tuesday? Let's take a look real quick at the Thika Superhighway. Traffic is already starting to build, and we'll see the most of it happening right around Survey as you get into the city this morning. As you're coming off of Westlands, we're not going to have too much of an issue, at least not for now. Ngong Road looks good as you're coming into the CBD. And so all of this business here coming in from James Gishuru, before that Zima Springs, and then further ahead, from that other side, Kingara Road, and all of this is going to pile up. That we're going to see. So let's watch out for that. Southern Bypass has a smidgen of traffic as you're coming in from Uhuru Gardens, and you're going to touch with what's happening then later on Langata Road as you get towards, so we're going to have some traffic this morning, and we're going to be here for it to keep an eye on and let you know where you find the good routes. Let's talk this Tuesday on SpiceFM KE on X hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's 11 minutes after 6 o'clock. Today is the 9th of July, 2 days into the new week. And many things are happening. Doctors slept on the road outside the Ministry of Health, waiting for one CS Nahumisha to answer them. We don't know what's going to happen with that. But we're here all the same this morning. CT, good morning.
Ndu?
Yeah.
How are you today?
My friend, how long do you have?
I have the whole day.
Let's just say that for now, my heart is beating.
Your heart is beating?
Yeah, I'm breathing.
In a bigger boom boom.
Yeah. My heart is beating for now.
That is usually the basic sign that you are well.
That I'm alive, Abi.
We mzima. Yes.
Uko salama na akili na wewe?
Mimi, yes. Ibaridi. Yesterday was a very strange day.
It rained.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly where my mind was going. And it rained quite a bit.
You know, I've lived in this country for some time, but I still have not figured out the weather patterns. Like in Nigeria, I know, for example, that right now it is the rainy season and that it will rain into September. It will dry up in October. And then we get into the Harmattan where it's dusty and extremely cold. That we have places in Nigeria where it is easily -1, kind of like
-1,
kind of like Limuru, places in Nigeria up in the middle belt where I live. And then it cools down generally, and so you get into the Harmattan. Then we will come back in January till February. It will be very, very cold. It will continue, and then we will stave off the winter. We'll get into like what now you call the spring, and it will start raining again in May, and it will rain from May to September. This Kenya, I've never understood.
What's the forest cover like in Nigeria?
I need to look, but I think we were 20-something percent.
20-something, it's better than ours.
Yeah, it is. Still considered tropical, many, in every sense of the word.
But, we're told, Greenpeace, environmental, this and the other. There are many reasons why this weather is the way it is. Because one moment you're being told it's just cold, then it rains. Yeah. In the middle of the day, when you aren't expecting it. Like Sunday, it rained.
Not quite understanding
Yesterday, it rained.
It rained overnight on Saturday.
On Saturday, yeah, until Sunday morning. And then in the middle of the day yesterday, and then it's drizzling now. I'm not quite sure what's going on.
Anyway.
But, I have a mandazi and coffee, so,
You're good.
I think I'll make it at least.
It's not all bad, eh?
It's not all bad. Nothing a good mandazi will not fix. Eric, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Mambo vipi?
Well, tunajaribu.
Hata mimi najaribu.
Ni hivyo, si ndio? Hapo ndio tumefika.
Hata mimi niko in jaribu mode. On jaribu. Let me tell everybody what we shall be discussing today. So we've seen the Gen Z protests, and now they're going sectoral. Yesterday was young doctors. Well, we've seen young teachers. We saw them, the JS teachers. Maybe they will come back into the street. Maybe, we don't know. We've seen various. Now, with all this Gen Z moment and what's happening in the country, can this moment propel the country to a better future, or can it just go to waste? Just like Abdullahi Alas was saying yesterday, it's at that moment where you can just tank it, or you can build this momentum and actually change this country for the better all the way. There are very many lessons to learn from across the globe on things that have happened elsewhere. We've seen the Arab Spring, youth. We've seen Lebanon, youth. We've seen even Sri Lanka, it's the youth. We've seen in Ukraine, the youth. We've seen in other countries. In Taiwan, there was just a couple of years ago, I think 2014, there was a movement. It was called the Sunflower Movement in Taiwan, and they forced things to happen. So, lessons from around the world. We'll be joined at 7 a.m. by Dr. Stephen Jackson. He is a UN resident coordinator in Kenya. He'll come in and tell us. He's a man who's worked in the UN system for many years in many countries, but also as the UN system. What lessons are these that even these protests can teach the rest of the world, right? What lessons can the rest of the world learn from the Kenyan Gen Z movement, and what lessons can the Gen Z movement learn from what else is happening in other parts of the world? That is the 7 a.m. conversation. At 8 o'clock, Jimi Wanjigi comes in and we will be talking about this debt audit. So the president forms a task force. Among it are members of looks at various institutions. The accountants come in, engineers come in, lawyers come in, and lawyers come the following day and they say, no, us guys are not coming in. We are staying out.
Are they teachers in that group?
No.
Sasa hiyo.
Sure. So, how walikata? And then someone goes to court, Dr. Magaragi Kenyi, and the thing is halted, right, in its tracks. And now Jimi Wanjigi will come and tell us. I mean, he's been talking about, let's audit this debt. Was it a good move? Did the president go about it the right way or the wrong way? And so what should we be doing about our public debt?
Almost seems like the man can't do anything right these days.
Oh, yeah, guy. Oh, yeah.
By the way, that is the perspective. Ask yourself the question. Even what he has done in the past.
What's got to happen?
Exactly. Was it really good, or were we just sort of like beaten and we're just saying, okay, that's how we're going to go? Because how often was it challenged before?
Not much.
Not much. Now it's being
a lot.
Now it's being challenged in arrears.
Everything. Questions. 17 minutes after 6, we are live streaming the show, as you know, everywhere. And do tell us about the weather.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
As cold as it may seem in Nairobi, it's actually 15 degrees. Pretty warm. Highs of 23 and lows of 13. It's cloudy at 14 in Nakuru, highs of 24, and we'll see highs of 23 in a mostly cloudy Nyeri at 14. 12 degrees and cloudy in Eldoret, highs of 23. And it's 22 and partly cloudy in Mombasa. We'll see highs of 30. Looking to highs of 29 in Malindi, where it's clear at 25, and it's 18 and clear in Kisumu. Tuesday we'll see highs of 28, and we'll see highs of 27 and lows of 16 in a partly cloudy Kakamega. It's clear at 18 in Kampala, highs of 28, and Dar es Salaam at 23 is cloudy, going to highs of 31. Looking into Johannesburg, it's -3 already. We'll see highs of 14. Looking into a sunny Mogadishu at 26, highs of 30, and Addis Ababa raining this morning at 13. We'll go to highs of 21. Lagos is clear at 25, highs of 30, and we'll see highs of 30 in a clear Kinshasa currently at 21. We're looking into a partly sunny Beijing. Tuesday afternoon, we'll see highs of 33 and lows of 23. While Paris is cloudy, everybody waiting for the Olympics. It's 16 degrees, fantastic weather, highs of 28 and lows of 16. It's raining in London this morning at 16, highs of 19. And we're looking into a mostly cloudy New York still Monday night coming into Tuesday, highs of 33 and lows of 23.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
19 minutes after 6. Watu ni wengi
sana. Moses Nyabura says good morning. Big up to the trio on behind the scenes production. That powerhouse firecracker woman is called Ednah. Good morning.
She cracks fire.
I'm telling you, it's not a small wahala. Would you consider inviting the guy who said that he uttered the word wall and not war? Who's that? Somebody said war and not wall.
Huh?
I don't know. Je ne sais pas.
The word what? Not what?
The word war and not wall, or wall and not wall.
WARWOEWALL. Which one?
Woe, war, wall. So apparently this guy said wall.
You said
Ednah, you're telling me it's Kindiki. Kindiki said that.
He said it.
He said what?
He said wall and not war. We are fighting a wall. As opposed to walking into a wall. But you can do both, can't you?
If you don't understand the language, it's called mother tongue interference.
Oh, that's the problem. All right. All right.
What were we referring to here?
Who knows? Now we don't know if he was actually talking about war, Ukuta, or war Vita.
Me, I was thinking of even WOE.
War yani shida.
Yeah.
You see?
War betide me.
Good grief. Good morning from Mombasa, says Peter Kiane. Alex is right here. Alex talks about himself in the third person.
I'm sure it was an interview on Citizen, and he was asked, you said there'd be war in the country? He said, no, I didn't say war. I meant wall.
There'll be a wall. There'll be a wall in the country.
We are going to have a war.
You need to stop it.
To block people from coming.
Oh, we'll have a wall.
We have a war. We are going to have a war.
But we won't have a war.
Yeah, it's what
and you'll have no
war to protect the critical infrastructure. It was a war of fighting. It's a war of constructed war.
Oh, constructed. Okay.
And war unto you.
If you don't walk into the war,
if you walk into the war, you will see war.
You will see war. My God. My goodness. Okay, Robert Tobago is tuning from Mombasa. Rogers Nyange says good morning. Kama Kawaida from Voi. Simon Ushuru says good morning, friends. What happened to our flying president? Oh, it's not a small while. You can't fly now. Good morning from the East Coast, says Sky Simba. Desmond Ortiz is tuned in this morning. A ripe pawpaw that refuses to fall for human consumption will surely be eaten by a mere bird. So you better fall. One guy says, good morning, Spice people. Good morning. I'm ready for the conversation. Thank you very much. Jimmy Wanjigi Tuesdays. Kaende says one mic tune in from Baltimore. Aisha Rashid is tuning from Nairobi. Auburn in Washington is where Elvis Kirando is. Good morning, kings and queens. While you're away, Mboga zimepanda be maradufu. What are those? What's maradufu?
Maradufu? Double.
Double. All right. Okay, Alex and I is also here this morning saying good morning to everybody. Moses Mwangi, David Kashangaki, good morning. Camp Konye says good morning. Much love from Wichita in Texas. Peter Kavoy says good morning. Kiongozi Omosh is here. Meshak Njenga, Samuel Bakora, Ellen Paul, we see you. Jimmy Gakio is also tuned in. Bernardo Kello is also saying good morning. Ruben Ambicha is here. If I'm skipping you, it's not because I'm not seeing you. Don't worry. Berhan Germai says good morning to all of you. Looking forward to a great day ahead. Jared Ondeki is also here. And Jerry Mamba says good morning. Dr. Venvik is tuning from Mombasa. Agola, you just said good morning. So you say something more, Agola. Come on. We know you better than that. Good morning, everybody. Karibuni sana.
Yes. City, we are still in this Shautome and the thingy.
Principe.
We need to find out how to actually pronounce that.
I actually did yesterday. It's Soweto. Sao. That's why you have that A over.
So you drag the R.
So you drag the R into the O. Sao. Right? So it's Tom and Principe.
Sao, Tom and Principe.
Yes.
So it's not Tome, but there's an accent on the A. So that's why you make it silent.
No. Okay. I looked at it. There is an accent on the E.
There's a hat on top of it. What do you do?
I don't know because this is Portuguese. You drag it. So it continues into the O. Tome. Sorry. Tome and Principe.
All right.
So what's the difference between the Tome and the Principe? Because the accent is on the E of the me.
I don't understand the
and
accent
not on the
for
E
Portuguese.
of the
I just know the sounds for French.
Portuguese.
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand the sounds for Portuguese. I understand them for French.
All right, let's just wade through, shall we?
Just call it.
Just call it anyhow you like.
We've got.
After all, Kindiki said war is war and war. So you can say whatever you want, man.
Okay.
He who has a wound in the mouth knows that blood is salty.
He who has a wound in the mouth
knows that
blood is salty.
Yes.
Right. Good one. It's a good one. Headline, Tafadhali.
Okay, the headline in the paper
Yeah.
this morning. There's a headline I like. You will allow me to read that one the first.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Gachagua and wife sulk over reduced office budgets.
The person who wrote this thing knows that how.
They only know what a sulk looks like, and they decided that the man is sulking.
Gachagua and wife
together
sulk over 400 million shilling budget.
Surely you had 400 million today, and then tomorrow you don't. Even you won't you sulk?
Well,
no.
Oh, you won't.
No, it's not that sulking. It's how you arrive at that knowledge. But anyway, you'll read about it later, won't you?
Of course, and I'm going to enjoy it. Patience runs thin on Ruto reform pledges. Kenyans are waiting with bated breath on the call by the president to shuffle his cabinet, even after some of his measures, such as auditing the country's debt, fly into headwinds as Kenyans question the legality of more proposals. Questions are flying everywhere. Gen Z's plan with military precision was wonderful to watch. Intern doctors, other medical practitioners, and Gen Z's protest outside the Ministry of Health headquarters in Nairobi during the Occupy MOH protests yesterday. And we did actually see folks sleeping on the street. The state is to pay 10 million shillings for Pakistani killing. The government will now have to compensate the family of slain Pakistani journalist Arshad Sharif, who was shot dead by police in Kajiado after the court found the police to have acted in an unconstitutional manner. You see, this is the question that's coming out of this. You can find that is unconstitutional, but then you wonder about the very many Kenyans who are gunned down during protests. You wonder about the very many Kenyans who've turned up dead. What would the courts say about that? Pressure mounts on IEBC reconstitution. Human rights activists, Gen Z protesters and political parties are pushing for the need to fast-track reconstitution of the IEBC, and pressure is now on the president. He did send out his office sent out a media invite yesterday to let you know that they've, one of the things from the NADCO report was the constitution of the IEBC, that needed to be done quick, fast and in a hurry. So there's some headway that's being made, and today we'll see what they have to tell us.
He's signing that bill into law.
Signing the bill into law. Okay. France in limbo after Macron gamble flops. Something has flopped, that's for sure.
Yeah.
AG role in trade deals queried. What's he doing here and what is it all about is the question that's being asked.
Okay.
Voilà, c'est ça.
Sasa. Sawa. Wacha nikwambie kwenye Taifa Leo hii leo. Ripoti yaanika jinsi jamii mbili za tawala Ketraco. Asilimia 41 ya wafanyakazi wote wa Ketraco wanatoka katika jamii hizo. 41% of all the staff in Ketraco are from 2 tribes.
That's good. Just 2. Yuri sana. So hakuna shida.
Euro, Uhispania na Ufaransa ni nusu finali ya pigaua. Today is the semi-final. Spain and France. Vidokezo. Shakahola, mashahidi wahojiwa faraghani. Kesi yaanza huku mtoto akiwa wa kwanza kutoa ushahidi japo katika faragha. So the Shakahola case has started.
Hallelujah.
Remember there's 100 and how many people have been charged with 100 and how many deaths and
94
so
people have been charged with 426.
Yesterday there was a child who testified in camera, and that's what the story is saying. Wapinga hospitali ya Mama Taifa kutwaliwa. Baadhi ya MCA jijini wakosoa Nairobi kutoa usimamizi wa hospitali ya Margaret Kenyatta. There's a hospital called Margaret Kenyatta.
Where? Me and you, Mama Lucy.
Allah. Well, there's something like that. Because this headline is saying that Nairobi MCAs are opposing the move by Nairobi County to take over the management of Margaret Kenyatta Hospital.
Which one is Margaret Kenyatta Hospital?
There are 2 Margaret Kenyattas, by the way. There was Margaret Kenyatta, who was mayor of Nairobi. And then there's Margaret Kenyatta, who was Uhuru's wife.
Okay.
Who is? She's not dead.
Forgive me.
Yeah.
Is.
Sorry. But is there any hospital named after
Not
Margaret
that I know of. But again, it could be ignorance on my part.
Yeah.
I've never heard it. Would we not have heard it?
Yeah,
maybe there's one.
Maybe there's one somewhere.
Wait.
No,
there was a hospital in Mathare that took very long to complete. I think it was a level 5. And then it was completed in Uhuru's days during this COVID manenos.
Did they call it Margaret Kenyatta Hospital?
Gravitating towards that.
We'll
I don't know, we'll check. Sadaka ya shilingi 30 yaua wanandoa. Mume aua mkewe alipomshuku kuwa aliiba sadaka, kisha nao wanakijiji wakamshambulia na kumuua mume. Husband, suspected wife, has stolen 30 bob that was meant to be a church offering. Husband does what? Husband kills wife. Village does what? Villagers kill husband.
Sorry?
30 shillings. Sadaka.
30. Oh my God.
Has led to the death of man and wife. Are we together? Are we together so far? The main headline, bang in the middle of the paper. Now how do you say bang in the middle of the paper in Kiswahili?
Bangi. Hapo katikati ya gazeti.
bengi bengi katikati ya gazeti. Gachagua atorokwa nyumbani, sababu wabunge wa Mlima Kenya wanamtoroka Gachagua, wanadai ana kiburi na anataka kuabudiwa ili wadadisi wa siasa. No, let me start again. Wabunge wa Mlima Kenya wanamtoroka Gachagua, wanadai ana kiburi na anataka kuabudiwa ila wadadisi wa siasa eneo hilo wanasema vita vyake dhidi ya pombe haramu na kufeli kwake kuboresha mapato ya kahawa na majani chai ndicho kinamla naibu wa rais.
Wameandika wanamfeli wanafeli. Bana we.
Kufeli kwake amefeli.
Amefeli ile wajua. Actually that is English.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Fail.
To fail.
Lakini sasa pia ni kufeli,
unajua ushafeli. Wajua waweza kuanguka umefail. Okay? Sasa wanipata lakini and then waweza kosa kupita pia umefeli. Yes.
Wow,
hayo yote ni mafelishi.
So you, my dear, were right. Margaret's Mama Margaret Uhuru Hospital is in Mathare North.
No, Mama Margaret Kenyatta.
No, the hospital is called Mama Margaret Uhuru Hospital. KNH is in Mathare North.
It's an annex of KNH.
Yeah. And it's in Kariobangi.
Wait. Yes, there's Mama Margaret Kenyatta Children's Hospital, KNH Annex.
Kariobangi.
That one is in Kariobangi.
Then there's another one in Nakuru. That one also is Mother's Baby Wing.
Sorry. Called what? Now it's called
Margaret Kenyatta Hospital, Nakuru.
Without Mama?
Yes, Margaret Kenyatta. Mama Margaret Kenyatta Children's Hospital, KNH Annex. Hiyo ni Kariobangi.
Kariobangi ni Mathare North.
It used to be. It's still there. Sure. And you're here, Mathare North. Then kuna hii Margaret Kenyatta Hospital Nakuru. That's a wing.
So it's basically the KNH annex that maybe Nairobi City County wants to take over. And
yes.
MCAs are saying you need KNH ni national. It's a national. Okay. Uko na the Star? Kaka?
Mimi naangalia Star online. Since today tumeamua kwamba anything that is English can be Swahilified. Okay? Right. Ruto team failed to disburse 244 billion to ministries, counties. Development projects, development projects worth 137.76. You know, this is 760 million. Mkijua. Sufika ni shilingi 6 ama shilingi 7 billion were not funded in the national government. 1. 2. Uproar over Ruto budget cuts amid wastage. Legacy projects to lose substantial funding, even as critics point to existing wastages. Why Gachagua plan is lethal for Ruto. Mount Kenya bigwigs. Interesting story. Then the other is just corridors of power. You know, that one essentially is more or less here, neither. Well, it's here and there. It's not neither here and there.
It is here and there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Ukona bang? Ama ikiwa kwenye online sasa huwezi bang. You can't bang it.
No, hii baba hii ndio shida wajua. Hii ndio shida. Na wewe bado nimekusikia usikie.
I worry about you.
27 minutes to 7 Ndo tell us about traffic.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start.
Baba boy, gas imeisha, shopping imeisha, na ujue tokens bado zinalia.
Msupa, nipe mbao na 20 minutes.
Mbao, like 20 bob. 20 minutes, kwani kuna nini? Na ujue mimi nataka kupika haki.
Jaber, kwani ujui dakika mamilini every 20 minutes, halafu wanapea na 10 million every 20 minutes, na hadi kuna 3 millionaires every hour.
Daka mamili virahisi. Uko na nafasi 3 ya kuwa millionaire kila hour. Usipitwe. Cheza Daka. Ushike mita yako sasa. Chagua nambari zako 4 za bahati and win up to 10 million every 20 minutes. Nenda kwenye paybill 440440. Account Spice amount. Cheza na shilingi 20 hadi shilingi 2,000 na ushinde mamilioni. Daka mita. Kuwa bingwa.
Spice FM, Malindi.
It's building up on Jogo Road this morning as you get into the CBD. Let's take a look at what's going on Outer Ring. Traffic on Kangunda Road is heavy. Where there is another Mama Hospital, it's Mama Lucy. Kangunda Road getting towards Outer Ring, that's busy. It's going to come round and connect with traffic that's coming in hot on Juja Road. And then as you get towards the Allsop stage on the Thika Superhighway, there's traffic coming in all the way from Githurai through towards Garden City. That is busy. All right, let's take a look in the western part of the city. We're going to see traffic coming out of Westlands in a short while. Kiambu Road looks good for now, as does Ngong Road. So traffic is just starting to build up, likely to get busier as we get into the day. We'll talk on SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag the situation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Tell us that 400 million.
So I was a sulker when I was younger. So if I didn't express myself with my words, you would see it on my face.
And you suck your thumb.
I used to suck my fingers. Two fingers. Two of them.
Where?
Okay.
On which hand?
So on my right hand. So when I was upset, I'd put my fingers in my mouth.
What does that tell us, CT?
Oh, stop it.
What is the behavior of a child who sucks two fingers of her right hand?
Comfort sucking, essentially.
Oh, sorry.
Shall I continue?
Let's stop now while we're ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Let's continue.
So, Gachagua and his wife are sulking.
The sulking.
Right.
Now, he's said to walk alone, constantly attracting new war fronts. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is not letting up, and from his words and actions, he can stay the warpath for as long as it takes to achieve his goals. His most pressing one seems to be dominating politics in his native Mount Kenya region, a task that has been easier said than done. From home, where he often camps, the self-proclaimed truthful man fires at foes unrelenting. The scrapping of a 400 million shilling allocation to fight illicit brew rubbed the DP and his wife the wrong way.
It does, huh?
Yeah. On Sunday, the deputy president was once again hitting at his own administration, criticizing officials openly. He took his fight to Kithure Kindiki war-led Interior Ministry, which he accuses of frustrating his fight against illicit alcohol in Mount Kenya to settle political scores. Kindiki was Gachagua's fiercest challenger to be President William Ruto's running mate in the 2023 presidential election. 2022, I beg your pardon. Both men deny being rivals, of course, and have often betrayed their words amongst observers. So he fired a warning shot to officials in the said ministry. He cautioned his boss that he risked losing favor in Mount Kenya, and this is what he said. Mr. President, if you allow overzealous officers at Harambee House with a political scheme to interfere with this war against illicit brew, you can guess who he was talking about. These officers will set you up against the people.
I swear.
Wallahi. Now, President Ruto has enough challenges of his own. A nationwide youth revolt is giving him headaches. The most immediate dilemma, shedding off members of his cabinet deemed corrupt and incompetent, according to Generation Z and millennial protesters. It is no easy task. Ruto admitted to the youth during an X-Space meeting Friday he could use allies. At the height of the youth revolt, it had seemed like his deputy, with whom they had been estranged in recent months, would fight in his corner. So we are looking at all of this, and they're saying essentially what's happening here is that, well, we could go on into the details, but, you know, they're not taking it easy because they've removed this money that they said, you know, this is one of the things that we said we wanted to fight.
It was fighting alcohol.
It's fighting, it's not us.
Alcohol, 400 million. So why, so the 400, you know, let's just take a step back. Last year, when the DP and Kithure Kindiki launched this big anti-alcohol drive, whatever they called it, they said, you know, everybody who's brewing alcohol, shut down. We're going to come and inspect afresh.
Right.
Okay? And we're going to license you again. And people are like, but you don't even license in the first place. That's a county job. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. Do you know, they went to the national coffers and they spent some money. And they used Article 224 of the Constitution, where you can spend money and then you go and tell Parliament, oh, by the way,
We spent some money.
That 224 was used, my friend.
The report that went to Parliament is they spent over 200 million shillings in a 2-week campaign to fight alcohol. What did they do? So you tell me, when you shut down when you say shut down your factory, how am I spending money? When you say re-inspect, and the people who are inspecting are people who
are employed to do precisely that.
How have you spent money? So I don't know how 200 million. So this 400 million shillings, what exactly was it going to do anyway?
That you're now sulking.
Rehabilitation.
Rehabilitation of what? Money was not going to Nakada?
No. Si lazima iende Nakada. Kama iko mahali watu wanaenda, where people can go to receive care, treatment for alcohol abuse.
It was not supporting rehab centers.
Okay. I was just poking in the dark. I withdraw. Now,
because if it was going to support rehab centers, then you would say that this money is going through Nakada, and then Nakada is giving money to the rehab centers it has licensed. Right?
Okay, let me just help you. Let me just help you.
Please help.
Because they wanted to eat the money. Because there's no way that this money was going.
At least we're not going to drink it.
Thank you.
How do we know?
Well, maybe they were.
They were fighting alcohol.
For goodness sake.
So they were introducing
We cannot
tea.
see any clear direction that this money was going to go. Because like you said, if you're going to offer up an edict and say shut the thing down, which money are you using to say shut it down? If you're going to say we need to put in laws and whatever, do you need money to create a new law? What are we talking about here?
To the tune of 400 million shillings.
Okay, maybe
it's
you
close
do,
to half a billion
shillings to be able to do that. So essentially now this money has been removed, and then you say that what you're doing is that you're coming against the people of Mount Kenya. Give me a break.
Mama Dorcas said, you know what, I have been on this warpath against alcohol and, alcohol abuse and looking at the boy child even before I became the
second,
the spouse of the deputy president. Oh no, she was a spouse.
She was always the spouse.
Before my husband became the deputy president, and it became sawa, that one. Okay, and I shall continue. All right. She said she'll continue the fight. So if she could do it without our money,
she doesn't need it now. For goodness sake. Jimi, I told you, they wanted to do what? Chop money.
Hata Kithure Kindiki is here any better.
Everybody chopping money.
And anyway, so today something is going to happen, and I want to look, before I read the story, I want to look at the media invitation from Hussein Mohammed. Hussein Mohammed is a State House spokesman, right? So there's a media invitation. President Ruto's assent to the IEBC bill at the KICC as the first bill successfully processed by Parliament based on the recommendations of the National Dialogue Committee NADCO report. President William Ruto invites leaders of parliamentary parties, both inside and outside Parliament, to join him for this historic event. What's a historic event? He will be assenting to the IEBC amendment bill. Now, here's the story on page 9 of the Standard. The push for a properly constituted electoral body is gaining momentum after Gen Zs joined the cause to pile pressure and ensure this is urgently done. Amid heightened demand for accountability, the Gen Z have vowed to push for the constitution of the IEBC, failure to which the youth will occupy IEBC offices across the country to pile pressure. They want the electoral body reconstructed so that they can have a legal mechanism to recall MPs who they say have failed their constituents. Human rights organizations and political parties have also insisted on the need to fast-track the constitution of the IEBC. Pressure is now mounting on the president over the matter. Okay? So here it is. The IEBC amendment bill will be signed today. And with that, then, we should have the reconstitution of the what? Of the body. There are several things that are in that bill. The commission's composition should comprise a chairperson and 6 other members appointed according to the Constitution. The chairperson and members of the commission shall be appointed in accordance with the procedure set out in the first schedule, with the process of their replacement expected to commence at least 6 months before the lapse of the other. Now, the new amendment, the new law that will be signed today, says that if the chairman is not in office, the vice chair does not automatically become the chair. That's number one. Okay? To avoid the Cherera Chebukati
issue,
right? But also, there are several other things that this bill needs to be looked at. I am not completely comfortable with, for example, the selection panel. And the selection panel consists of 7 persons for the purposes of appointing the chairperson or member of the commission. It should consist 2 men and 2 women nominated by the Parliamentary Service Commission. 2 men, ongeza mbili. 2 women nominated by the Parliamentary Service Commission. Those are how many?
4, please.
Why them?
1 person nominated by the Law Society of Kenya.
5.
2 persons nominated by the Interreligious Council of Kenya.
7.
Okay. Now they increased that.
From 5 to 7?
They increased that so that...
7.
Oh, sorry.
they increased that. This story is quoting the old bill, Buana. Because now we have... the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, however, proposed that the membership of the panel be expanded from the current 7 to 9.
Okay.
All right. And also includes 2 representatives of the political parties' liaison committee.
My fingers are finished.
Okay.
Hey, boss.
Let me just ask again.
Baby.
Yes?
They are supposed to be 9. You have, how many fingers do you have on your both hands?
You said I was at 9 when you said there's supposed to be 2 more.
No, you had 7.
No, he said 2 more for justice and legal affairs.
I was watching you count. Every time you opened his mouth, you counted. There have to be people you're counting.
Let's do this.
Not Eric's breathing pattern.
2 men from Parliamentary Service Commission. 2 women from Parliamentary Service Commission. 2 persons from the Interreligious Council of Kenya. Okay? Unit 6. 1 from the Law Society of Kenya. How many are those?
7.
Now add 2 from the political parties liaison committee.
Apana. Are they teachers in that thing?
The teachers?
Yes.
Teachers can be parliamentary. They are not teachers. They are not teachers.
No, but if Judicial Service Commission can have, why doesn't TSC have, or why doesn't Kenya National Union of Teachers have also?
Judicial Service Commission has what?
So they've chosen people there.
No.
They have. You read.
Who said Judicial Service Commission?
You read.
Parliamentary Service Commission.
Same thing.
After all, the legislature...
No, there was a judicial something there.
No, it was the Interreligious Council of Kenya.
Okay, and then after them?
Law Society of Kenya.
See, I knew.
It had to do something with judicial. My God.
Yes.
So we had 9.
Yes.
So we are at 9.
Yes.
Out of those 9, 4 plus 2 are political.
There's something wrong.
Politicians.
Something
those how
wrong.
many? 4 plus 2 is?
6. No.
6 out of 9.
That's a majority.
Yes.
These are politicians. There's something wrong there.
6 out of 9 are coming from political actors. 2 religious peoples.
No. That mixture is wrong.
1 from the Law Society.
I don't know why it is. This game that these politicians are playing must actually stop. Because they are the ones who make the biggest and the most noise about IEBC, and they're the ones who create the problem. Now they're populating it with their people. This is going to be another political nonsense that we're going to witness here. Because all the battles that those parties have are going to play out.
That's it.
They will be involved in choosing people who are politically inclined towards them. So already the tender can get set.
That it's a big issue here because they are going to be arguing. So the 2 who come from the Parliamentary Service Commission, remember, people in the Parliamentary Service Commission will be dealing with a majority and a minority. So the 2 will come from majority, 2 will come from minority. Okay? These others, the 2 from the political parties liaison committee, the dominant parties in the political parties liaison committee will also have a say on who those 2 are going to be. So even if the 2 are not going to come from UDA, that's a party, not URP, UDA, right?
Yes.
If the 2 from the political parties liaison committee don't come from UDA, they are going to come from one of the part of the coalition, Kenya Kwanza coalition, small parties. If the other one does not come from ODM, they are going to come from one of the smaller coalitions in Azimio. So basically, it is Azimio and Kenya Kwanza who are going to have 6 people. 6 in this thing. And then we're going to an election.
Nothing will have changed.
No, absolutely not.
Nothing
I'm sorry, but for me, the concept is just very simple and it still remains the same. It is not possible. Just look at any of your competitions around the world. And we continue to use sports as an example. You cannot be the one who selects the referee and the umpire. And then in the game, you cannot still be the one who keeps telling the umpire, hey, by the way, I did this. You got to protect me. Or you can't. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You can't. And I can't understand why we can't see this. This is exactly what's happening in plain sight. The reason why there is an insistence on having politicians in this select committee, or rather who make the selections, is because you want to be able to control the results of the game. And here we are talking about free and fair. It will never happen.
Are journalists appointed to this thing?
Nope.
So, I mean, come on, man. So these fellows are already fermenting problems for the future, because that is exactly what is going to happen.
They will argue.
Yes, no.
Yes.
They'll come there. They want to show that, they have, it's through consensus that they have agreed on who sits in the commission.
No.
But the people who end up sitting in that commission will later be knowing that I got through this commission because I was actually sponsored by by this party. I was sponsored by so and so. So everybody else will be knowing, sisi tulichukua commissioner wawili na hawa walichukua commissioner wawili. The politicians will be knowing, chairman ni mtu wa Raila, vice chairman ni mtu wa Ruto, or the other way around.
Right?
So when it goes to the election, people will be wondering, wewe na ni Raila alikuweka hapo.
Ulifanya?
Ni nini unafanya hivi? That is what we have seen in these past IEBCs.
We've seen it in the past, from the time of Kiwitu.
Yep.
This is a problem. And the politicians are unwilling to let go of this process, which means
skin in the game.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But this skin on the game, can't they see the times we are in? They are perpetrating something that has been the bane of our existence for a very, very long time.
But you've got to understand that it's not for country. It's
How
for
can it possibly be?
It's for selfish gain.
Yep.
It's not for country. Very few people who aspire to be in any kind of political leadership are not doing it for country. Very few are doing it for country. And that's why you see something like this. They will fight tooth and nail to ensure that they have representation there so that they can get where they're going.
Yeah.
Same thing with political parties. Same idea.
And they are calling this a historic moment because they have reached some political sort of deal. Because that's what it is. Remember when this NADCO was established, and on this show we said many times, this NADCO thing, we had very many words between us. Mine was it's a political conmanship, but we toned it down and said it's a dishonesty. And the whole conversation around NADCO revolved around, let's participate in choosing the IEBC commissioner, and then the rest we shall create an office of what was it? Official opposition to or leader of the opposition to what? The things that matter to the people on better governance, not discussed.
Those things were completely ignored. Essentially, they had their own agenda, which they are now seeking to fulfill.
Short term. The things about meaningful electoral reforms and ensuring that Kenyans actually trust the electoral process from the beginning to the end, not discussed.
Those things were not considered.
The thing about controlling the amount of money that our politics is spent in our politics was not discussed, and it's not going to be discussed. It becomes a very, very expensive affair to be in politics. You hear what MPs have been spending. Studies have been done by, institutes. We have been
colossal amounts.
At 30 million shillings to campaign as an MP.
Can you imagine?
First of all, where do you get the 30 million shillings?
30 million shillings.
And then what propels you?
If you don't have $1 billion shillings, just forget about campaigning for presidency.
Abdullah asked a very valid question. All these declarations of wealth that people have, no value addition. Someone doesn't own a factory. Someone hasn't invented anything. They haven't patented anything.
Nope.
And yet they were. So you say, okay, so where exactly did this money come from? You're not known to farm thousands of acres of whatever it is that people farm in thousands of acres. You're not known to have 1,000 cattle on the hill. These are things you don't have. And yet,
you are a billionaire.
You're a billionaire. How?
You are a billionaire, and we know it. And you can see somebody, after spending all that money, within 12 months, you are seeing somebody actually demonstrating and portraying opulence. You wonder,
wait a moment.
If this person actually spent over 100 million shillings of their money to campaign for this seat, and they're still coming to donate 20 million shillings,
I mean, I think, did we miss the classes that were being taught? I mean, there were certain units that were being taught about how money is made. Did we miss it?
Yeah. There's something we missed. And just to ride on that, Nakuru Senator Tabitha Karanja has supported calls to recall non-performing legislators while admitting that all is not well in the country. She has questioned the source of funds and opulence from some MPs when thousands of Kenyans were sleeping hungry due to the harsh economic times. When I read that story, I actually saw, all right, so this is Tabitha Karanja. She can question the source. We can look back and say, okay, Tabitha had a brewery, has a brewery.
We know even how she started.
Right?
We know the business.
You can at least just say, this one is an industrialist, brewery, sold booze. You can tie back some of it.
You can connect the dots. Yes, you can.
You could raise all those questions whether this company was paying taxes and all.
That's a different matter.
That's a different matter. But at least you can see.
In fact, the question of taxes is what proves that the company existed.
Exactly.
And that they were producing
because
something.
Because even KRA has actually seen, yes, you have been producing and therefore
so give us our share.
Yeah.
But this one, I don't know what it is. This is what I call the tyranny of habit.
Yep.
Our politicians are so used to running roughshod over us
that
even in moments when they should reflect, they're still not reflecting. For them, it's business as usual.
Yeah. Tunasonga mbele, what?
This one, no. This is not a forward movement. Because a few years down the line here, we're going to have a problem.
A big one. So, well, as the president signs this thing into law, it's a flawed law. It's flawed. That's it. City, tell us a story.
Yeah, I can tell you a story. Happy story.
A happy story, oh?
Yes, I want to tell you a story. You know who sang that song, do? Ransom Felakuti.
Yeah, Ransom.
Yes. Sasa, there was this story in The Star, okay? A Ruto team failed to disburse 244 billion to ministries and counties. See, this story caught my attention in exactly 2 minutes. If the government doesn't disburse, the P and the B's have caught up with me, money, it means there'll be very little economic activity, because it is that money, when injected into the economy, whether it's a county economy, that enables what? The circulation of money to increase, and with that, there's what we call development.
Yeah.
Now, the reasons that are given for why it is, your guess is as good as mine. But is this not a story that we've heard from the times of Uhuru, where counties specifically are always begging for money that actually should be theirs? Now, you were talking about legislation. You know how we are told that the police don't have to go asking for the money, the police service. It's allocated, just goes. And then they manage it as they see fit. Okay?
Yep.
Now, surely, what is it that prevented or what prevents the national government from ensuring that the same thing happens to counties, the same thing happens to ministries?
So which ministries did not receive money? 200 billion.
200 is a combination.
So basically, we closed the year without having disbursed
all the money that
was budgeted for.
That is exactly it.
224
billion. Yes. That's according to the Star, according to the head. Now,
if you go into what was then spent through Article 224 of the Constitution,
you'll
find several billions there. Right?
That was spent, yes.
Now, you can ask yourself, was that an emergency expenditure that then necessitated money not going to counties to buy drugs for hospitals? That necessitated money not going to counties to
pay teachers?
Or just the allocation which was supposed to be given to them? Yes.
Is that, because that's the thing.
It is a question.
When you hear 200 billion shillings has actually not been spent.
And yet we know money kept being spent.
Yeah. At what cost?
Come on, man.
So what is it that suffered?
The face, impunity has a very clear face. We simply refuse to look at it and to stare at it in the face and say,
call it what it is.
This is it.
Yeah.
This is it.
What? In Kenya, buana. In Kenya. Keep it here for more conversations. Coming up in the next hour, we'll be hosting the UN resident coordinator in Kenya. We'll be talking about the Gen Z movement and what we are seeing. It's a big thing. The Gen Z movement. In fact, there's a big headline in the Standard today. Gen Z's plan with military precision, and what we have seen out of it. Right? This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room. Stanbic Bank reminds you that if you do what?
If you switch,
you can
win.
Okay. And all you need is open an account. Put 50,000 shillings.
Open and put.
Wait for the draw. Win money. Up to 1 million shillings in the grand draw.
Sugar and spice and everything I know. Spice FM.
spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. The Kenya Union of Clinical Officers Secretary General George Gibore has directed all its members to resume their duties immediately starting today. This comes after they called off their nationwide strike after 99 days. According to Gibore, the strike was ended following the signing of a return to work agreement with the Council of Governors.
We began our strike on 1st of April after 7 days strike notice, which was issued on 25th of March. And we have been on strike until today. We're now today, by virtue of signing this return to work, we are officially declaring that our strike has come to an end and our members shall resume duty in their respective place of work starting today and not later than 24 hours from the date hearing.
Hundreds of medical, dental and pharmacy interns took to the streets yesterday and spent the whole night at the Ministry of Health, refusing to back down until their demands are met. Gathering at the MOH headquarters Afia House, the interns expressed frustration over years of waiting for their official postings after completion of the studies.
The Ministry of Health has categorically been working tirelessly to make sure that doctors in this country die. I'm saying this why. Like right now, I'm from Homa Bay. I've not slept, I've not eaten, I'm severely jet lagged. Come straight to the ministry. Look at how the ministry is receiving us. They've locked the gate for us. They don't want to communicate to us. This is a ministry that is handling 10 billion Kenya shillings that is supposed to be allocated to us. We asked them why have they not posted in turns for the last 2 years. They are postponing meeting. The second best time to post us was today.
And moving on, National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula has rejected Rarieda MP Otiende Amolo's attempt to repeal the withdrawn Finance Bill 2024, stating that only an Act of Parliament can be repealed. Amolo's proposed bill aimed to overturn the Finance Bill, which President Ruto declined to sign into law following public outcry. In response to widespread street protests, primarily by the youth, President Ruto conceded to public demand and declined to assent to the controversial finance bill. Instead, he referred it back to the National Assembly with a recommendation to delete all its clauses. He sent a memorandum to the National Assembly suggesting the deletion of all clauses in the bill. Speaker Wetangula subsequently directed members with concerns about President Ruto's memorandum on the Finance Bill 2024 to address them through committees. 3 witnesses are scheduled to testify against cult leader Paul Mackenzie and 94 other suspects this week. Mackenzie and co-accused facing charges related to 13 acts of terrorism connected to the deaths of more than 436 people whose bodies were exhumed from Shakahola Forest. This event comes as Shandu Principal Magistrate Leah Jima ordered media representatives to leave the court premises, citing the need to protect the identity of a witness under the Witness Protection Program. All suspects were present in court and the witness fully covered to avoid identification. The court has scheduled witness testimonies for 4 days this week, which started yesterday all the way to Thursday, and additional testimonies will be had from July 22nd to the 25th. And finally, Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has assured Kenyans that the government will explore ways to maintain roads without increasing fuel prices following concerns raised during the collection of public views. In a statement, the Cabinet Secretary indicated that many are worried that an increase in the road levy will result in a rise on the cost of living. The CS promised to consider all the recommendations made by the public before making a final decision. Last month, Murkomen had told the Parliamentary Finance and National Planning Committee that the levy was last reviewed in 2016, thus needs review. Currently, the levy is set at 18 shillings per litre. The CS said that the hike in the tax will see the government collect an additional 32 billion shillings. Now the fund collects 83 billion shillings annually. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Okay, it's a few minutes after 7, and it's still dark actually in the city. Take a quick look at what's happening on the streets this morning. It's starting to build on the thicker superhighway, and as you get towards Survey and then out towards the CBD, seeing traffic has done quite the thing. As you get through towards Muranga Road, that's going to be busy. So traffic on the thicker superhighway is coming in all the way from Githurai and then out towards Garden City through where the service lanes come to an end. So watch out for that. It's also busy on Kangunda Road, touching on Outer Ring. Outer Ring itself is not looking too bad as you're coming in from North Airport Road out into that part of the city. Quick look at Ngong Road. Naivasha Road not looking too bad. Coming in from Kikuyu Road, there is where we'll see some traffic. But apart from that, I think we're starting Tuesday off not too poorly. We'll keep an eye on things and see what happens as we get into traffic hour coming up soon. Shall we speak? Let's do it on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
7 minutes after 7 on this 9th day of July 2024. As we get into the second hour, where we say, Anguka nayo, Ndu. You don't get it? You'll get it. You will get it.
Really?
You will get it. It's the movement. Anguka nayo.
I'm so lost.
Yeah.
Floating.
You will be.
The only one then.
You're not alone,
God.
dude. I'm equally lost. Completely.
Bas, Msijali, you'll catch up. All you need to do is think about, okay, tonight, France, Spain.
Africa United. Get it right, man.
Africa United.
Yeah.
Okay. Versus Spain. In the semi-finals of the Euros.
Exactly.
So who do you think is going to win?
Africa.
What am I asking?
Even I. He does not watch football. Surely.
We know.
I mean, you ask.
Who do I think is going to win this thing tonight? If you'd like to watch tonight's semi-final clash between Spain and France, what do you do?
You get onto Africa's upgraded streaming platform. It's showmax.com now. What you can do is that you can actually log on to your phone. For 500 shillings, you can watch all the matches and you can watch the scintillating semi-final match between Africa United and Spain and see who win at the end of it. But you can watch it on your mobile phone. Take it with you wherever you go. If you go to a cultural establishment, you can go with your phone. And if people are crowding the TV, you can say, well, excuse me, I can sit in the corner and watch this thing on my phone because I paid 500 shillings and I went on to showmax.com or I downloaded the app and I can watch it on my phone. So all of you who are crowding the TV, move over because I can do it for myself.
I'll be watching.
Thank you.
In the comfort of my bathroom.
Or wherever.
Cultural institution.
Cultural establishment.
Cultural establishment, as City would say.
Yes.
Okay. Very good thing. Our guest is in the studio. He is the United Nations Resident Coordinator in Kenya. That's a long title.
Yeah.
His name is Dr. Stephen Jackson. Good morning, Jackson.
Eric, good morning. How are you?
Are you well?
How's everyone? Very well. Thank you.
Welcome. That's the hot seat of the Situation Room.
It certainly is.
No, come on. It's a warm one right now. We're gonna up the temperature just a little bit. You'll tell us what the UN Resident Coordinator does and why in this country and all those things. But to welcome you to the conversation, City will give you the day's proverb. Before that, Ndu will tell you, where you are and Gigiri. Gigiri is not so far from a place called Roysambu. Okay? Have you been to Roysambu?
I don't think I've been to Roysambu.
Have you been to Thika?
Yes, I've been to Thika.
Then you've passed by Roysambu.
Then I've gone through Roysambu.
Yes, you have.
You know TRM Mall?
Yes, I think I've passed that, right?
Bas.
Okay.
Bas, you're home.
Now we're good.
Now, roundabout there is a roundabout. On the roundabout is a plaza called Jewel Plaza. In Jewel Plaza is the most recently established Roy Sambu Specialty Care Center by the Aga Khan University Hospital.
Oh, okay, very good.
Because there's this belief, which I agree with, that you shouldn't have to travel very far from where you live or work to access medical care.
Correct.
So they said, okay, let's do this. And what do we have available here at the center? Chemotherapy, dialysis, endoscopy, and also some of your minor surgeries, day surgeries that can be taken care of by specialists rather, who are there. We've got surgeons, we've got gastroenterologists, we've got oncologists, everybody at this center. So essentially what you're looking for available right there, because universal healthcare should be here and it should be now.
Like that.
Easy peasy.
Like that.
So, Stephen, next time a member of your staff tells you that, they came in late because they passed by the hospital and they tell you Aga Khan University Hospital, and you're thinking, all right, I know where Aga Khan is. It's on Limuru Road on the way to the UN. And they tell you, no, I was in Roy Sambu. Don't question them. Believe them.
Believe them.
Okay?
Very good.
City, the day's proverb. In fact, let him tell us how to pronounce this country's name.
Well, there is a Central African country.
In the middle of the ocean?
Next to the ocean. Well, it's actually not middle, just on the side of the ocean. It's an island nation. I'll spell the name of the country. SAOTOME
Sao Tome e Príncipe.
What? Have we say that again?
Sao Tome e Príncipe.
Príncipe. Sao Tome e Príncipe.
Portuguese speaking.
There you go.
Lusophone. Very good. Points there.
We got it.
Yeah?
But it's difficult. We can't just say Sao Tome and Príncipe.
No.
Sao Tome
Not English.
e Príncipe. Very good.
No, this is very good. I think you can just go home.
Thank you.
It's all right. I mean, this as we are set.
We've learned a lot.
We've learned a lot. And just that one. Now the proverb. He who has a wound in the mouth knows that blood is salty.
He who has a wound in the mouth knows that blood is salty.
Yes.
What's your interpretation of this proverb, Stephen?
So it sounds to me, sir, first of all, that it's about experience, right? If you've gone through it, you know. And if you've gone through it, you may know from bodily experience, right? So, and then the wound in the mouth, that's interesting. The mouth speaks.
Doesn't it just? Yes.
Good way of looking at it. A good way of looking at it.
Would you like to hear my proverb?
Oh, you have a proverb?
By all means, please.
I brought you a proverb because we're going to be talking about youth engagement.
Yes.
So in Ireland, we speak English because, like Kenya, we were colonized by the British, but we have our own language, Irish Gaelic. And in Irish, we say, Mol an oige agus chokishi.
Exactly.
Now,
you agree?
Would you like to interpret that one? Yeah. Mol an oige agus chokishi. An oige is the youth. Mol an oige agus chokishi literally means praise the youth and they will come forward. But I'd like to think that it means encourage or even engage the youth and they will come forward. And it seems to me that's an appropriate one to think about.
Mol an oige.
Mol, which means to praise, mol.
Yes.
An oige is youth. Agus chokishi. Agus means and, chokishi. They will come. Literally, she will come, because youth is female in Irish. That's a word. But anyway, yeah.
Mol an oige. Agus chokishi.
Yeah. So encourage engage the youth, and they will come forward.
And they will come forward. Very good one. City, what's your interpretation of this proverb?
Well, from where I sit,
yes.
Okay, it is this. The youth represent a new beginning. The youth represent continuity. And if you let the youth flourish, then you welcome continuity and the newness of life. That is how I look at it.
Very nice.
What do you say to that, Stephen?
I think that's exactly it.
He can go home.
He can go home now. Yeah.
There's a story in today's Standard, and with a very beautiful photo there. You see the photo? The centerpiece of the Standard? It says, Gen Z's plan with military precision. And this, the caption for this photo is, intern doctors, other medical practitioners and Gen Z's protest outside the Ministry of Health headquarters in Nairobi during the Occupy MOH protests yesterday. The story is on page 7. I'm just going to read some excerpts from this story written by Fidelis Muga. He says, in the arena of Kenyan politics, a new force has emerged, reshaping the landscape without traditional leadership hierarchies. Despite that, Gen Z have appeared more organized than the country's political parties that are famous for disorder and fights from within. Generation Z, Kenya's youngest adults born after 1996 and younger millennials, have sparked a remarkable movement against the controversial Finance Bill 2024 and other governance in general, demonstrating unprecedented organizational prowess and digital savvy. What began as discontent on TikTok evolved into a nationwide revolt, showcasing the power of collective action driven by youthful determination and digital connectivity. The Gen Z has defied conventional wisdom by orchestrating a remarkably well-structured movement devoid of centralized leadership operating in physical offices. They're leveraging their digital fluency, and they've established a communal fund dubbed the Kitty, pooling resources to cover everything from medical bills for injured comrades to logistics for widespread protests.
Extraordinary.
Big thing that's happened here in the country. What the Gen Z have structured and the main wins here, they say, for example, there's a graphic presentation here. Number one, they have a communal fund kitty for medical bills and logistics, organized hospital visits and providing aid to injured comrades, blood donation drives for victims of protest-related violence, armies on TikTok and X to disseminate information, speed on hashtags like hashtag Occupy Parliament and hashtag Reject Finance Bill 2024 to unify voices, crowdfunding to cover transportation and other costs, cyber attacks on government websites to draw attention to their grievances, leaking personal information of political leaders for direct engagement, creating a digital wall of shame listing politicians supporting the finance bill, honoring fallen comrades through memorials and attending funerals.
Extraordinary. Extraordinary.
Is it?
Yeah. And I really want to speak to some of the really positive dimensions of what that article, I think, has very correctly identified. The amazing nature of this, sometimes called leaderless, but actually some friends call it leaderful movement. Will you forgive me if I do one thing before I do that, before I turn to the positive things, and just express my sorrow for those who've lost their lives and their families. The Secretary General of the United Nations, as you know, he put out a statement very early on in this protest, extending his condolences, and I want to repeat that this morning. When we were talking in the run-up to this, Eric, I told you, I used to go on protests myself as a teenager in Ireland. Now I'm 57. I'm 3 times the age of the people on the streets. But I remember very well protesting against apartheid, protesting against violence in Central America, protesting, by the way, about the unequal tax burden in Ireland when I was a teen as well. So, this is not unfamiliar territory. But those who protest peacefully have a right to do that. That right is an international right, it's a universal right, and it's a Kenyan right under the Constitution, and nobody should lose their life in the course of a peaceful protest, and I feel that very, very strongly. So I wanted to start there. But then to go to what your colleagues on the Standard described there. Yeah, well, I just said, I'm 57. I'm 3 times the age of these protesters. And what they've been able to do in terms of how they organize is remarkable. And how you can take a movement that is so large and so engaged and so diffuse and so leaderless or leaderful, and yet articulate a set of demands that is clearly itemized, I think is incredible. And it's taught us, and I don't mind admitting to you, it's taught me an extraordinary lesson, because I wouldn't have bet on that. About a year ago, I was in Kibra, and it was World Youth Day, and I was speaking to a hall full of about 300 or 400 youth activists. And I said, I'm fed up of being that old white guy that repeats endlessly, we have to listen to Kenya's youth. We must listen to Kenya's youth. Did I mention that we have to listen to Kenya's youth? And you don't leave any time to listen to Kenya's youth. But then I said, here's my challenge, right? The last time I checked, there are 35 million of you. How do I listen, as a UN official, to 35 million of you without going deaf? I'm going to be just drowned in all of the diversity of opinion. This movement has proven me wrong. This movement has shown that you can engage at scale, you can organize at scale, and yet you can prove to the world that you can produce a very clear, consistent set of expectations and aspirations for the country and for the government. And that's really striking. And I think, what I would want to say is that's a moment of opportunity we mustn't lose for Kenya. But it's actually a moment of opportunity we mustn't lose for the world.
Yeah, it's interesting as you say that, because I remember a couple of months ago us having a conversation in this room, and we said, you know what, the lines for democracy or the lines for good governance seem to have been drawn by a particular set of people, and then that seems to be imposed on other nations. And I said, you know what, perhaps it is time that nations and their own decided to draw out the lines for what their democracy should actually look like. Or maybe it's something else. And so now you have Kenya doing a thing that has never been done anywhere in the world. There is no historical event or process that has taken place like what's happening in Kenya today. And so now, as we see that, do we then also accept or then begin to imagine that a new line or new boundaries of governance then away from what was previously drawn out then can actually happen?
That's the opportunity. That's absolutely the opportunity to reinvent how governance is done. But I put two tweaks on it. One, it's almost unprecedented. There are a few interesting examples that are a little bit incomplete. They're not really countries. They're like cities here or counties there that have experimented with this a bit. It's about 7 years ago now that the Oxford English Dictionary, its word of the year was youthquake. Because youth were beginning to do this around the world at scale. It's not that youth have never protested, of course they have. I did. But in these kinds of numbers, right, that's unprecedented. There are a few places that we can look to for some learning, but what Kenya is doing at the level of the nation, I think I can't think of a parallel. So that's the first tweak I'd give it. But the second one is to say, it's Kenya, but not just for Kenya. Kenya can invent a model now for the rest of the world. Because you're right. I mean, it's my part of the world that for centuries dictated the terms of what governance should look like. It's high time Kenya and countries like Kenya gave lessons to the world on how to do it. Because this is not a challenge unique to Kenya. All around the world, countries and governments are wrestling with how to listen to and engage with youth and how to reinvent governance for the 21st century. That's everywhere. So Kenya could lead that.
If we say that governments around the world are struggling with how or what to do and how to manage the youthful population, even those who have a declining population, are we then saying that governments around the world are set in their ways and that the majority of people in governments around the world are traditional, they're much older people, but more importantly that they've forgotten what it was like to be youthful?
To be young, absolutely. It seems like a long time ago to me. I don't know if we're around the same age, Charles, but...
I am distinctly older than you.
Distinctly older. Well, you wear it well. You wear it well. But yeah, I think we forget. Yes. I think we do forget. But you can kind of reach back, right, and remember what that impatience was like.
I think that's what this particular movement is doing.
Reminding us.
Yes, clearly, loudly, because part of why it is the way it is because parents are supporting it. They may not have agreed You see, one forgets that these young people live in societies, in communities, and in homes and in families.
Yeah.
And because they are young and they watch more than they talk. And so they learn more than you realize.
Right.
If the parents struggle, they know. If they have difficulties at home, they understand. They may not talk about it, but they understand. Now, because of the population that we have and the numbers that we have in our family setup, they are likely to have siblings, and if they don't, they're likely to have friends of the same age with whom they can compare notes. This is a manifestation of something in my mind that has been brewing for a long time. This generation, people say, are the generation who burnt schools. We had a period of time in this country where schools were being burnt. They were sending us a message then, we didn't listen.
Well, you used a verb earlier. I'm just going to pick you up on that. You talked about governments managing youth. If governments try to manage youth, they're going to fail, right? What they have to work out how to do is how you engage with youth, and that's a different challenge. Now, and I think that's a challenge, as I say, that everybody is facing. But look at the problems that we have in the world. Problem of climate change, problem of conflict, the problem of disease and pandemics like COVID. It's interesting, by the way, they all begin with C, don't they? Conflict, climate, COVID, capital, the cost of borrowing. Those are the four big problems that everybody is facing around the world, the cost of living. 5. Youth are the ones who are going to provide the solutions to that. My generation hasn't managed to.
Your generation has contributed. Our generation has contributed. I say contributed because as you're speaking, I was thinking, what is it that makes older people stoic? What is it that makes them traditional?
Charles is going to be speaking up for the elderly here.
Yes, I am. And elderly includes those who have one foot in the grave. Yes, I do. The experience that the older people like myself have had, transcending our youth to now, old age, the thing that we look at is we have been through these things.
Yes.
You see, now, that is the mantra. And so, traditionally, because we have, you ought to listen. But then you see, therein lies the problem. This is the information age. Age, yes, has experience, but knowledge is far more available, far more easy to acquire, and far more easy to disperse than any time in the history of mankind.
That's the difference this time, isn't it? And again, the Gen Zs have mastered using these online tools to organize, right? And to produce this articulated set of demands. So that gives us, that's why I think this is a moment of opportunity that we haven't had before, where it actually becomes possible to engage large numbers of young people at scale, or large numbers of old people, right? So this is also part of the point. We can't leave this to be just a conversation for the youth and just the youth that are online. So we have to remember how many youth around Kenya don't have smartphones, aren't able to afford to be online in the way that, you know, if you're going to be on TikTok or, right, so how do we engage them? But also other parts of society, and the elderly being one. In my part of the world, you're right. I mean, the population increase is declining, right? So then it becomes about the elderly as well.
You grew up in a time when the telephone, a public telephone, was a booth where people could walk
indeed.
to. Well, yes. But you see,
I courted my wife by fax machine. Nobody knows what that is anymore.
I thought you said you courted your wife.
Quartered, no. Undrawn and quartered, I hope not, no.
I can imagine how public that was. Sending a fax to your girlfriend. Hey, baby. Can we have dinner on Friday at 6?
But there are all these people. You see, the sense of community mitigates against this idea that not everyone has a phone. You don't need to have a phone. One person, a group of 10, has a smartphone. You all have a smartphone. Yes.
I think this is also very interesting because the level of education that we're also seeing that's taking place with a movement like this is phenomenal. That there are people who have said that they're going to take their time to break down some of these things for people's understanding. And I think it's being filtered down for folks to actually understand. We saw the finance bill being put into different languages just 3 weeks ago.
Extraordinary.
And we saw people breaking it down into language that is used today. Call it colloquial, call it whatever you want to call it, but it was broken down for people to understand. It's the ABCs of the finance bill, and we saw that happening. For example, there's also an education of external factors that play in internal politics and governance that usually leaders of nations hide. Whether it's international organizations who play into a government's internal politics, and those now are being brought out to the fore. And I think it comes to a time whereby also the pull on an educated young people, it's not people who are ignorant.
No.
On an educated youth who are saying, you know what, we are very aware of what's happening, and we're not going to allow business as usual. And there has also been the question of, is it protests then that we're going to allow this renaissance that we've seen today? Would there be another way? I personally think that it's one of the best ways. But would there be another way for bringing in of...
I think there's a complementary way, so protest always has to be there. Always has to be an option, anywhere in the world. And the Constitution recognizes that, right? And you've got an amazing Constitution here in Katiba. You have all of the tools. Right? We just need to live it. But I think that there is another way, or a complementary way. So I'm not ruling out protest, but that becomes the next option, right? But what you want, if you're really going to reinvent governance, what you're going to do is invent a mechanism for permanent, ongoing, routine engagement with large sectors of the population, youth certainly, but other sectors too. And what could that look like? Well, the online, I think, is a real opportunity for that. I don't necessarily think, with all the respect I have for what's been done on X and TikTok, those are great spaces for energy, amplification, getting everybody riled up, getting everybody mobilized. But there are actually other online tools, and these have been used in that small number of examples I started to allude to. Cities that have looked at participatory budget making, for example. The Kenyan Constitution, by the way, says that's how you should do budget making here too. There should be public participation. It's in the Constitution. So how do you make that real? There are online tools that are better than X or TikTok for having a debate that we call deliberative, where you have, tens or hundreds of thousands of people engaging, and then you move towards a consensus, right? So I could imagine a kind of an ongoing mode of governance in Kenya. And I would love to see Kenya model this, where, well, let me give you the analog version. The analog version is called Switzerland, right? Everybody knows that in Switzerland, almost everything, like the size of the height that the hedges are in your garden.
It's public participation.
It's public participation. It goes all the way down to the village level, right? Imagine a 21st century version of that in a country the size of Kenya, right? 60 million people engaging online at the level of the village.
On the mundane matters.
On the mundane matters of the day, right? And arriving deliberatively at consensus. I think Kenya could do it. I think you've got an educated population. I think you've got that. My God, you've got an engaged population. I've never seen a population like Kenya for engagement. You've got this
tech-savvy population.
A tech-savvy population. You've got the internet penetration. You've got a constitution that says you should do it. Why not just do it and teach the world how that can be done?
Let's explore how that can happen after this break. It's 27 minutes to 8. We are hosting Dr. Stephen Jackson. He is the United Nations Resident Coordinator in Kenya. Before we take the break, Stephen, this is where you tell us, who is the UN Resident Coordinator? What's your job?
He's an Irishman struggling to do his best for Kenya. But it's my job to bring together the energies and the expertise of 25 different United Nations agencies, that alphabet soup of everything from the Food and Agriculture Organization all the way to the World Health Organization, all working for Kenya.
So what does that mean?
We try to bring our expertise together so that it isn't just the agriculturalists working on agriculture and the health people working on health and the tech people working on tech, but we try and bring it together in a way that actually supports the government and people to move ahead.
So you sit at the head of the table for all those UN agencies.
The the first amongst equals.
At the head of the table.
Yes.
Okay. So
you're going to get me in big trouble with my colleagues now.
Taking this break and going into it, remember, this is Kenya's biggest conversation. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Baba boy, gas imeisha, shopping imeisha, na ujue tokens bado zinalia.
Msupa, nipe mbao na 20 minutes.
Mbao, like 20 bob. 20 minutes, kwani kuna nini? Na ujue mi nataka kupika haki.
Jaber, kwani ujui dakika mamilini every 20 minutes, halafu wanapea na 10 million every 20 minutes, na hadi kuna 3 millionaires every hour.
Taka mamili virahisi. Uko na nafasi 3 ya kuwa millionaire kila hour. Usipitwe. Cheza daka. Ushike mita yako sasa. Chagua nambari zako 4 za bahati and win up to 10 million every 20 minutes. Nenda kwenye paybill 440440. Account Spice amount. Cheza na shilingi 20 hadi shilingi 2,000 na ushinde mamilioni. Daka mita. Kuwa bingwa.
Mi nimechoka. Unaniharakisha and you can see I'm in heels. Tulianzia Moi Avenue, then Kenyatta Avenue. Sasa tuko downtown. Kwani we are lost?
Baby, no. We're almost there. Nivile, I have many bank accounts in many banks. Let's cross the road.
Okay. Ona karibu nigongwe. And now my heel is even broken.
I'll buy others.
How do I walk now?
You don't need to bank all over the place. At Stanbic Bank, we offer a range of banking solutions, from 7 million in digital unsecured loans up to 14% interest on savings, 9.5% fixed rate on home ownership, and so much more. Start a chance to win 1 million. Open an account and switch your salary to Stanbic Bank. Or for existing clients, increase your balance by 50,000. SMS SWITCH to 22208. Promo ends 5th September 2024. BCLB number 000105. Terms and conditions apply.
The weather with SpiceFM.
It's cloudy in Nairobi, 15 degrees. We'll see highs of 23 and highs of 24. And a mostly cloudy Nakuru at 14. It's 14 and cloudy in Nyeri with highs of 23 as well. We'll see highs of 23 and a mostly cloudy Eldoret at 12. Mombasa is cloudy at 22 with highs of 30, and at 25 it's clear in Malindi, going to highs of 29. Clear at 18 in Kisumu with highs of 28, while Kakamega at 16 is partly cloudy with highs of 27. Kampala is clear at 18 with highs of 28, and Dar es Salaam cloudy at 23. We'll see highs of 31. It is -3 in Johannesburg, highs of 14, and Mogadishu will be partly sunny through Tuesday with highs of 30 and lows of 25. It's raining in Addis Ababa at 13 with highs of 21, and it's clear in Lagos at 25 with highs of 30, and at 21 Kinshasa it's clear. We'll see highs of 30 and lows of 20.
Spice up your life.
Yikes, traffic on the Thika Superhighway is quite heavy. It's coming all the way heavy, bumper to bumper, in from Garden City through towards Murang'a Road. So that's not fun. If you're in it, I'm sorry. We'll sing your song as you get through it. Coming off of Waiyaki Way, there's some traffic touching on Wangari Maathai. So that's all doing the thing. Getting onto Huru Highway as well, we'll see some traffic inbound to the CBD. Jogoo Road is busy. Coming in from Manyanja Road, crossing over Outer Ring and then through towards Landis, which, by the way, is clear. And I don't know, did people not offload vegetables at Wakulima today? Because there's no traffic here whatsoever. It is Tuesday after all. Let's wait and see what happens as we go through that. Mombasa Road is fine. As you're coming off of the Eastern Bypass, there's traffic coming in through towards North Airport Road. I think that's the worst of what we're seeing right now, but we're getting into traffic hour. Let's see what happens as we run through it. We'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Continues for the next 21 minutes. We are talking about Kenya's Gen Z moment, how this could shape the future of Kenya and how it could also shape the future of the world. Lessons from Kenya to the world, and maybe lessons from the world to Kenya. Our guest is Dr. Stephen Jackson. He is a UN resident coordinator in Kenya City.
Actually, you say it has changed. It has changed. The one thing it has changed and which is irrevocable in this country it has brought in accountability, something that we haven't had for decades. Members of parliament, politicians, budding and otherwise, those who are currently in seats, know they are being watched and they're now going to be held accountable. But let me now have a little accountability question for the UN.
Sure.
I am delighted, happy that we are receiving assistance, and I'm happy that the UN acknowledges that they can learn something from this country. But why would the UN take the time, bother, and money to want to help Kenya?
Well, first, because it's our job. That's what we're asked to do. We're asked to work here to support Kenya's people, Kenya's government, to serve its people. So that's the first point. It's my job. But the second is because I devoutly believe in it. That point about accountability, Charles, that's the fundamental of democracy, right? Accountability anywhere in the world, right? So it would be in our interests to help you, Kenya, to try and perfect that. I think you're right that this protest movement is the beginning of that. But this isn't a finished thing. No democracy is ever a finished thing, by the way. And it would be a matter of immense pride, I think, for us as the United Nations to help with that if we can, and if Kenya wants that help. But then there's a third reason, and that's Eric alluded to in his little spiel just as we came back from the break there, which is how Kenya can furnish an example for the world. And the UN is also about that, because we're about trying to promote the sharing of best practice, right? We already talked, and you said this is sort of unprecedented, right? This is a problem that everybody's facing, a challenge that everybody's facing. How do we renew democracy? Because democracy is in trouble in many parts of the world, certainly on my continent. How do you renew it? This would be a way. This would be a way you'd do it. And so then that would be another reason why the UN would want to help, because we would want to be part of helping consolidate a success that the world can learn from. And I'll just say one final thing about that. I know it probably sounds a little bit abstract. It sounds like, the UN always does that, right? But the Secretary General of the United Nations is calling a summit in New York in September, and it's called the Summit of the Future. So the clue's in the title. Right? It's a summit about what happens next. And it's really looking at all of these global challenges that we have. And one of them that he keeps talking about, Antonio Guterres, he keeps saying the social contract is broken. So he means the contract, the agreement, the effective deal between governments and the peoples they're supposed to serve. That contract is broken around the world. So if we could be part of, in Kenya, showing how you renew, you make that social contract new again, my God, that would be a proud moment.
What would it look like in terms of how a body like the United Nations would come into this without usurping the power that rests in a movement like this? Because we can already see in my home, Nigeria, protests and demonstrations against the government have already been slated for later next month.
That's right.
And this is as a direct result of what has happened in Kenya. To say that the power of the potency of something like this will then not be taken by a body like the United Nations, for example, without providing just support, but by saying, well, how about we take this over for you and say, how do you avoid such? In my mind, it's a danger.
It is a danger. It's a risk. And we have to avoid doing that. We cannot come in, as we would say in Ireland, with our 10-league boots on and stomp all over this thing. It's one of the reasons I came on the show, if I can be honest with you, because I wanted to learn from you, learn from your listeners, how we could avoid doing that. We have to offer support where it's wanted, not where it isn't. But I think what we can do, Eric, you alluded to this, we can look at the small but growing number of examples of how this is being done in other places around the world. There are parts of Latin America that have used online fora for doing what we call prior consultation around a big, let's say it's a big infrastructure project or a big extractives, a big mine or something like that that's going to be very controversial, right? You use online tools to engage the population to try and find out, the parameters of what's possible and what's desirable. My own country, Ireland, has had really interesting experience with what we call citizens' fora. Forums of citizens that engage around a public policy question about a piece of reform or whatever, and they're chaired independently. They collect the views of the populace, they kind of sift them and simmer them and then present them to government, and government takes them or doesn't take them. In Asia, there's been really different places, some cities, some larger polities that have experimented with using online tools to do things like budget making, to look at tax policy, to look at even government agendas. I think with all due deference to the movement says very loudly right now, we're not interested in dialogue.
Yeah.
We've told you what we think.
We want action.
We've told you what we expect. We want action. That's a very legitimate thing right now. 6 months, a year from now, there'll be new issues, right? Because society moves on. Back to your question, Du. Does that mean people have to take to the streets every time? If they need to. But hopefully, we could actually come up with a mechanism, a new way of doing governance.
So going to the streets, essentially, what we're saying is a catalyst, or it's a trigger towards other things that can happen later in terms of dialogue, or in terms of
participation, a national conversation.
Is there anywhere where we can say that this has happened? Where it started with the galvanization and mobilization for a protest over an issue. That issue was addressed, and then that movement continued. And it brought about greater accountability, greater participation, greater awareness in the selection of government. And then governments that were initially very rigid now becoming more engaging with the protesters.
Yes.
Examples like that?
There are examples like that.
For example?
There are a small number of them at this point. You look around the world, France went through, do you remember the Gilets jaunes, the guys wearing the yellow jackets? Right. So there was actually a real soul searching after that, and then experiments with ways of engaging people. Switzerland, as I've said, but it's not exclusively Western Europe, as I've mentioned. I mean, particularly in Asia, where the internet literacy is so high, like it is here in Kenya. I think there's some very good examples there. It tends to be so far, though, at the level of cities. Cities have done this very well.
When you mentioned Asia, for example, I think of Thailand. Thailand, we saw those movements, the organizations, people pouring into the streets, trying to change the political order, but they were removing one family from power and installing another family in power. In Sri Lanka, we've seen recently, you've seen what happened in Sri Lanka. People have done this. Taiwan, a city, as you mentioned, where there was a movement like this, and they were raising issues, but then thereafter, it just seems to get back into
the old business as usual.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there? How can we all work together to seeing that this movement goes beyond this, because what we are seeing now, just to give an example, is what we are seeing now is a government that is reluctantly responding, and it's not interested in really responding. So you'll try and brand this thing and say, these are people who've been, there's somebody who's behind them. They're not leaderless.
Some foreign power.
They've got a leader. There are other interests that are at play here. And then by and by, okay, so yeah, we are listening to you, but you guys are not getting it. You just don't understand the implication, for example, of not having 365 billion shillings extra to spend in the next year, and what that would mean. It's responding, but it's slow. So the fear is, once, say, you wanted me to reshuffle the cabinet, I've done that. You wanted me to sign the IBC bill, I'm signing it. What are you asking for? Now, the next things, are systemic, and they have to happen over time. They can't happen immediately.
Correct.
And then people retract into just things, and status quo remains. Status quo is the enemy here.
Yeah.
And status quo is, government is status quo. a bureaucracy like the United Nations is status quo.
Yes. But Eric, consider, you're absolutely right. Because people want to go back to the calm and quiet. They don't want people walking on the street protesting, hindering them from going where they want to go.
Or asking too many questions.
Yes, and also there's the fear that it might turn nasty and who knows, their windscreen may be smashed. Why? Because that is what we've been accustomed to. Unfortunately, change doesn't come in that sort of clothing. Unfortunately, it very rarely does. The mistake the Gen Zs would make is to cede power. It would be a colossal mistake. Because that constant reminder of what they are doing or what they stand for is fighting against a tide that has been there for the longest possible time, and with every presidential election has been entrenched. And that's why we have what we call a political class. Okay? They also are not willing to cede power. So it's in their own self-interest. When they realize that their interest is threatened, then they'll be more inclined towards ceding and giving the appearance that they're changing. But in response to what we see the president doing, there's no clearer sign that he has missed the point completely. Because tokenism is not what is called for now. It's an insult if that is what you are doing. Because the opportunity to actually be the person who's brought about change will be missed. Now, we've seen missed opportunities in this country. And I think the Gen Z know this. Why I'm saying they know this, they have their own agenda. They are not allowing someone to set this agenda for them. Now, we'll complain and say, oh no, now they're going to be on thicker road, there could be a problem. Actually, yes, there'll be an inconvenience, that is certain. There may even be a few of them, a few rogue elements. Definitely they will be there. As I say, dogs come with fleas, okay? But the point that you make that I want to emphasize on is this. This opportunity that has presented itself, are we trusting the Gen Zs to be able to walk with it and for us to follow? Because I hear the idea of working with them, understanding that I also get. As an older person, I get. But the question I'm asking is, are we willing to follow them?
Are we willing to cede?
Yes. Are we also willing to
cede
and say, okay, guys, tell us what to do?
Are they willing to take up that challenge?
That is an even better
in the
question.
longer term. Because you see, if you have this conversation now, yes, the conversation is being led and spearheaded by this younger generation.
Yes.
And this is what they're saying. Are they willing to actually continue and provide leadership beyond this and getting into even providing and shaping government of the future?
Yes.
And shaping what our country then looks like into the future?
Yes.
Without responding or reacting to somebody else.
You're both identifying a challenge that is as new as today. Today's Tuesday, right? It's a protest day, and as old as time, right? Institutions are very slow to adapt. And the question that I have is, does this movement insist that it stays outside institutions, or can it eventually agree to breathe new life into institutions? That's going to be the challenge. The Gen Z won't be Gen Z forever. One day, they'll be as old as we are, right?
Yeah.
And there'll be a new generation with its demands. So how do we use this moment? How do we work together to make this moment a moment of actually profound change in how governance happens in Kenya, and therefore providing this model for the world? And I certainly don't, and the United Nations want to make that totally clear. First of all, we've no interest in being invited to a party where we're not welcome, right? So if Kenya doesn't need our help with this, that's fine. I'd love to offer our help, and I also don't think our help would ever be about trying to set the agenda.
To whom are you offering the help?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Kenya, if I can be as pious and as broad as that.
So who are you engaging?
With which instruments, essentially?
You
would
engage with government.
Yeah, government, which would be interesting because...
So we do, of course, work with and alongside government. That's part of our job. And so part of my job, if there is an interest in this, would be to say to Gen Z, to say to broad Kenyan society, but certainly to say to government, look, there are some examples of how, and there are tools out there that can be used to take a conversation that has been spontaneous, energetic, engaged, and sustain it. Help it sustain and help it progress. There are platforms that are better suited, actually, than X and TikTok, that are a bit more deliberative, that will allow you to make this, and the word routine sounds like a criticism, right? We say it's routine, it's boring. But you want to make this routine. You don't want to have to make it be, every time there's a crisis. You want this to become part of the muscle of how Kenya acts.
There's always the question of helping and understanding what is needed, and that only comes from asking. And then there's always the issue of modeling to suit your interests, because the UN has their interests. Now, how do you marry the UN interest with ours?
We have to be attuned to what the aspirations of the Gen Z are. And we have the advantage that has been made very clear for now. So these are the aspirations right now, right? So we have to listen to those. And it's back to your question. How do we avoid, we in the UN, we cannot come in, we would not want to come in. It wouldn't work. Who cares what we want? It wouldn't work. We'd be rejected out of hand if we tried to impose. And that would be right. It would be right to reject it, right? So I is probably clear, I don't have a clear answer for you right now. We're right at the beginning of this. We're kind of old school in the UN. We've talked about listening to youth for a long time, but we haven't managed to do it.
Did you say kind of?
All right. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Touche.
I mean, just looking over time, I just reading history and history of governments, and then looking at, many would say that even governments that operated 20 years ago are in history, right? But is it possible, whether it's a renaissance of ideas, is it possible to have a new movement or new ideas void of the instruments of government, for example? Is it possible without structure? We have a wave that has come. I mean, I look at all the ages that have come and gone. But through those ages and through new ideas that were then being introduced and captured, all of these were on the bedrock of some kind of structure.
Goodness, that's a deep question. I feel like I'm in, a philosophy graduate school now. But I don't mean to make fun. It's an important question. I don't think so. I think in the end, no community can live with permanent crisis. And, we don't know what's coming the next day, and we don't know what's coming the next day. If you want to walk forward, you have to have some kind of a plan. But I do think, and this is the crucial point, that this movement is teaching us a new way to plan. Right? That's what's key for me. So the movement does, it seems to me, point the way to a new form of structure. Right? It's looser. It's louder. It's more energetic. That's great. That's great. I think that's really what I want to say is I find that exciting. I don't know, sitting here on a Tuesday morning, how you do that, but I think Kenya already has some ideas.
It's already that moment.
That's right.
Many people may not realize this, but the UN is supported by governments.
Of course.
And government means taxpayers' money, right? So we basically run the UN. So speak to the people of Kenya on one hand, in about 30 seconds, and then spend another 30 seconds speak to the government of Kenya. What message would you pass?
People of Kenya, help us reinvent the United Nations so we can help you do what you've made clear you want to do, right? So help us work out the answer to Ndu's question. And to governments, and the Secretary General has been very, very clear about this. He says, you need to realize that you need to reinvent the social contract with your peoples or your history. That's what he said to governments around the world, and that's what this Summit of the Future is about. Reinvent, re-energize the social contract or your history.
Do they get what he means? Do you think governments are actually getting what Antonio Guterres is saying?
I think they're starting to. We'll see in September. Like one pillar, if I've got time to say it, one pillar of the Summit of the Future is to agree a set of global principles on how youth participate in governance.
Thank you.
That's what these protests are about.
Thank you for coming today.
Thank you so much for having me. What a great conversation.
We'll have you again soon. Dr. Stephen Jackson is the United Nations Resident Coordinator in Kenya. He's been our guest. We'll be looking at the Gen Z movement, how this is shaping Kenya's future, how this conversation can be sustained beyond the current immediate demands of the government, and also now taking them to demands for the people, and how that can help shape the future of the world. It's 8 a.m. Good morning.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm La Ubaga. President William Ruto will this morning assent to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission bill. State House Press Secretary Emmanuel Telam said the event will take place at the Kenyatta International Convention Centre, at 9 a.m. This will be a shift from the norm where the president traditionally signs bills at State House. The new law will put the country's electoral management system in place, including paving way for the appointment of new IBC commissioners. The president has been put under pressure to sign the IBC bill amid calls by a section of Kenyans to recall their MPs for voting in favour of the impeached Finance Bill 2024. The government responded to Auditor General Nancy Gathungu's findings on the Financial Inclusion Fund, that is the Hustler Fund, attributing the issues to errors in data extraction, understaffing within the Secretariat during the fund's establishment, and errors in notes numbering. Gathungu issued a disclaimer opinion citing inconsistencies in the management of the fund. She highlighted that the Hustler Fund management failed to provide financial statements for audit review, which prevented verification of the source and authenticity of the balances. Her analysis revealed that more than 17 million beneficiaries applied for loans, amounting to a total disbursement of 32 billion shillings. However, a substantial balance of 10.95 billion remained unpaid as of June 2023, including interest receivable and loans outstanding. Bumula MP Jack Wamboka has supported President William Ruto's announcement that public officers aged 60 and above should retire. He, however, asked the president to implement the order, starting with his own cabinet secretaries.
Mheshimiwa Rais amesema anataka wale wamehitimu miaka 60 waende nyumbani. Mheshimiwa Rais, tunakubaliana na wewe, lakini anza na nyumba yako. Cabinet yako iko na watu 6, kama hujui naweza kukumbusha. Wamefika miaka 60. Wewe tuambie kwanza, mimi cabinet yangu nimepeleka nyumbani wale watu wa miaka 60. Msiingie tu kwa watu wadogo wadogo. Tuanze na maneno ya watu wakubwa.
He has also criticized the national government for deceiving Bungoma residents that it will help build the Masinda Muliro Kandui playground. President Ruto made the promise in the launch of the ceremony, but the responsibility has now been left for Bungoma County.
Rais Ruto amekuwa hapa akatuambia yeye sasa amepatia Bungoma County stadium. Hao ma MCA watakuambia budget wamepitisha juzi ya county, wameweka hapo pesa ya stadium. Sasa mimi nauliza serikali, mnasema unasaidia sisi kujenga stadium, na hapa county ndio inajenga stadium. So who's telling the truth? Mbona mnatudanganya? Mwache kudanganya watu wetu. Kama mambo ni mbaya sana, wachana na sisi. Presidents come and go.
5 people have been arraigned before an Eldoret court facing charges of conspiracy with an intent to defraud Robert Keter, John Chimba, William Bitok, Len Jelimo and Edwin Boit of their share of a parcel of land located at Nyeri. The court had that on diverse dates between March 2001 and February 15th, 2022. The five, jointly with others not before the court, conspired with intent to defraud the said persons their land, measuring approximately 20 acres valued at approximately 20 million shillings by falsely pretending that they were the genuine owners of the said parcel of land. Appearing before Eldoret Principal Magistrate Kimani Mukabi, the five pleaded not guilty to the charges and were released on a 500,000 shillings bond each. And in the international scene, a Boeing jet liner taking off from Los Angeles lost a will, the latest in a string of safety scares for the aerospace giant. United Airlines, which operated the Boeing 757-200, said the plane lost the will after leaving Los Angeles International Airport, but landed safely in Denver, its intended destination. No injuries were reported from the ground or the 174 passengers and 7 crew members on board. It was the second time in recent months that a Boeing plane operated by United Airlines lost a will after taking off. That's the Newswire. I'm La Ubaga.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice. When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Quite some traffic coming off of the Eastern Bypass and then touching on Outer Ring. Let's take a look at Manyanja, then spilling over towards Jogoo Road. Some traffic there. It's busy on Kangunda Road this morning, and we're also looking at traffic on the Thika Superhighway. It's, spots here and there. Coming in through Garden City and then through towards Survey. Kiambu Road is very busy. As you get to Muthaiga Square, there's no traffic, but before that there is. It's likely to pack up as we're getting in through towards 8. Then traffic coming off of Wangari Maathai is very busy as you then approach museums. Okay, so, traffic is not too heavy. It's just, scattered somehow. Well, keep an eye on things, though, and see what happens. It'll get smoother as we go along, I'm sure. We'll talk SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Yes, 8 minutes after 8. How are you doing? Welcome to the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room. And what's happening tonight, Ndu?
Tonight, Africa United is playing, and you want to see the boys, the Les Bleus, as they're known, want to come out and do some fantastic stuff. And you ask yourself, so how are we going to watch this? Well, this is the way. log on to www.showmax.com. You can download the app on your phone. It's the Google Play Store or Apple App Store. And you can then register, pay, and watch. And I'm not talking about just recorded stuff. I'm talking about live matches that you can watch the actual match played out today or at your own comfort on your mobile phone, wherever it is that you may be, on your mobile phone for just 500 bob. You can watch the semi-finals of the Euro, which are happening tonight, and then into the final, which happens later on into the weekend. So it's good stuff, man. Showmax.com is Africa's upgraded streaming platform.
Very, very, very good. Very good. Let me tell you about Jubilee Insurance. You know, we've been talking about Jubilee Insurance and Jubilee Health Insurance. If you're thinking good health insurance, think Jubilee. And we've been talking about the J-Care. We talked about others. Today, we're also talking about the premium international coverage. For those who need premium international health coverage, Jubilee Health Insurance offers the care and the health plan in partnership with the Ednah Group and underwritten by Allianz. This plan provides coverage limits of up to $4.5 million US. 4.5 million US. You said that's about 600 million. Yeah? Hey. A cover of up to $4.5 million US and access to global healthcare in over 183 countries. It's perfect for those who travel frequently or those who require global medical support. And it's incredibly comprehensive, covering pre-existing conditions up to the full cover limit. You also have flexible payment options, 24/7 emergency evacuation assistance and repatriation services for those who are seeking top-tier global health coverage. Don't go anywhere else. Go to jubileeinsurance.com. Of course, one of those people is our next guest, Jimi Wanjigi. 4.5 million USD health cover. It's better than
4.5. That's huge.
It's huge, right?
Huge.
Just talk to Jubilee Health Insurance and you'll be sorted.
That is huge.
They have a cover for me and they have a cover for you.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
So how do you talk to Jubilee Health Insurance? Go to their website. That's jubileeinsurance.com, or you can call them. And City, what's the number? 07?
0709 949 000.
0709 949 000.
Yes.
Jimmy's PA has taken that number. He'll just tell the PA, call Jubilee. Tell them I want to talk to them. They'll come.
Asante, Eric.
Good morning, Jimi.
Good morning, Eric.
Good to have you here.
And thank
we
you.
must begin by offering our condolences to you and your family.
Thank you
on the
very
passing
much.
of your father.
Thank you very much.
Mr.
Really
Maina
appreciate
Wanjigi
it. Yes.
served this country diligently for many
Yes, he
years.
did. Yes, he did. I said many times during the ceremony that it was a celebration. Because if there's one man that lived God's purpose for him in this world, it was him. And we say that purpose is to make heaven here on earth. And I can tell you did that for very many people.
Right.
So we're very happy we celebrate his life. Thank you very much, Eric.
Karibu sana.
Yeah.
Ndu,
Yes.
tell Jimmy about Roy Sambu.
You know Roy Sambu?
Yes, I know Roy Sambu. The area, yes.
Yeah. So now in the area, at the roundabout, is the Jewel Plaza. And at Jewel Plaza, the Aga Khan University Hospital has just established the Roy Sambu Specialty Care Center because there's a belief, which I agree with, that you shouldn't have to travel too far from where you work or where you live to be able to access medical care. And it's world-class medical care at this center. We're talking about day surgery, minor surgery. We're talking about chemotherapy, dialysis, endoscopy, all these things delivered by experts from surgeons to gastroenterologists, oncologists, etc., etc. And it's right where folks live and work because healthcare universally is here and now.
Very good. In Roy Sambu?
Yes.
Oh.
Same quality of Aga Khan University Hospital.
Really?
Yep.
That's not far from my home.
You see?
That's interesting.
You are now covered on both sides of the home. You can go either to the main facility or you can go to the Roy Sambu Specialty Center.
Very nice. Thank you.
City, the day's proverb. And today we've been told the proverbs for this week are from...
I am not.
Please pronounce.
No. You see all these noises. We had a guest just before you who pronounced his name as it should be pronounced.
Okay, say the one for the P.
I am not going to try. I I'm not afraid to embarrass myself, but this is a completely different level of embarrassment.
Okay, say it in Kenyanese.
Okay.
And then Ndu will say it in there.
Yes, it's Kenyanese. you pronounce it syllable by syllable. Sao Tome Principe.
Sao Tome Principe.
That's yes, it's an island nation in Central Africa. Now, they keep saying, what do you mean island nation in Central Africa? That's exactly where it is.
It's an island in the central of Africa.
You know,
I don't remember that in geography.
No, Jimmy, you know, these natives are very interesting. Whenever you talk about Seychelles, it's an island nation.
Yes.
And you say it's in East Africa. So, same thing. Yes. It's not, I think you point made.
Yes.
You pronounce Sao Tome Principe as it should be pronounced.
So what he said, what the Portuguese would say is Sao Tome Principe.
See?
That's not Kenyanese.
No, that's Portuguese.
The province city.
Yes. He who has a wound in the mouth knows that blood is salty.
He who has a wound in the mouth knows that blood is salty.
Yes.
That's a good one. That is a good one. He who has a wound in the mouth knows that blood is salty.
Yes.
So one has tasted blood.
Yes, you have. That's how you know it is salty.
What do you think it means?
That you know the taste of blood.
Yes. You know, usually that a wound you have in your mouth, if it's not an ulcer, it's something that has been inflicted by, should we say, some trauma. Okay. Yes. And so the injury is what produces the blood.
Yes.
So it's in your mouth. There's no choice. You're going to
There's
taste it.
no choice.
You're going to taste it.
So you know the taste of blood.
Yes, you do.
And that it is salty.
Yes.
So it has a cost.
It definitely has a cost. You don't taste blood in your mouth just because it's not orange juice.
It's because of a reason.
Yes, exactly.
An injury.
Yes, it is.
So, Eric, what do you think it is?
No, Jimmy.
We see what you're doing.
That's not how it works.
Nice try.
It's okay. Take some time. In the next hour, we'll ask
come back to
again.
that. Yes.
Same question.
Sour.
What do you think it means, right?
Sour.
So, Jimmy, let's begin by just getting your feeling and reaction to what's happened in the country in the last 3 or so weeks.
Well, firstly, let me express my heartfelt condolences to the soldiers of the new revolution that have fallen. They are heroes, and one day they shall be given their rightful commendations with a new government. They are heroes of this republic, and they shall and must be treated as such. I congratulate the branding of Gen Z and the Gen Z revolution. I think a few months ago we had predicted this. Late last year we had predicted it. It has come to pass, and we congratulate them. And for those who imagine that it is over, I think they are living in dreamland. This is something now that's very deep in the soul of that generation, who are 70% of the Republic of Kenya. And all they are doing, I don't know why people are so anxious. All they are doing is embedded in the constitution of this land. Article 1 is very clear. The people exercise their power directly or indirectly. Article 2 also says the people have the right to call it back. They are the ones who protect the constitution of this country. When you saw that young man in parliament, in the chamber, say very loudly, Mr. Speaker, sir, where are you, Tumefika? They had taken back parliament. The people had exercised their sovereign right and taken back parliament. That entity today, I can tell you, completely lacks legitimacy. Completely lacks legitimacy.
What does that mean?
In other words, who believes anything that party can do, that house can do anymore? It is a third arm of government. Who will believe it? It went against the people, right? The people went and took back power, and even the president threw it under a bus 2 days later, so that the people don't go and take State House. Because you would have seen, as you've seen in other nations, like Sri Lanka, where the president, where Wananchi are jumping on the president's mattress in his palace. You'd have seen that probably that Thursday. So the people are exercising their constitutional right to take back power under Article 1 and 2 of this constitution. And I commend them. My gosh, it is fantastic to see. And I continually encourage them to do that.
To do what?
To do what they are doing. Because what they are doing is taking back power. You see, we have had a policy, I think, framework, I would like to call it, ever since the colonialist was here. That somehow, where you are appointed, if you have a job, you are the boss. People have never understood that it's the people that are the bosses. And that the people are your protection. And the people can take it back. What has never been clearly defined in that constitution is how the sovereign takes back their power. You're now seeing it on the streets. The others who say it should be a referendum. The others who say all sorts of things. But this is now a demonstration of the people taking back their power. And my assessment, because I think it is beyond the finance bill. The bill was rejected, but the pain continues. There was already pain. What people did not want is more pain. All right? So here we have a situation where, by all assessments, the pain is going to continue. It is not going to decrease. The president, I think, has talked enough about that too, saying that now economically we are going 2 years back. So he's saying the pain is going to continue, if not get worse. So if that is your script and your prescription, if that is what you foresee, why do you want to remain in office? So you say, hallelujah, I give up. I cannot handle this thing. I have no solution for Kenyans. Kama kuna wengine ambao wanaweza fanya hii kazi, karibuni.
Do you think, Jimmy, I mean, just from what we're seeing here, I mean, it's clear that certain things have happened as a result of this. I mean, the first one, very clear, was that the president actually then declined to assent to the finance.
He only did that to save his State House.
So now that's the question.
So there's nothing else.
Can we see that there is then a genuine desire to go for good governance?
Is it a governance issue?
Is because
it's not a governance issue.
Hang on, Jimmy. So look, this is the thing. There's so many things that are being asked for today. Members of Parliament be recalled. Cabinet secretaries get out of office because you people have been joking and eating our money. It goes across board that we should have a debt audit. Let us know exactly which is one thing that you've been calling for the longest time. So many things are being asked for, and then we see certain actions being taken. Number one, whether we want to say that it was for fear or for good conscience, the finance bill was in actuality rejected. We see that today an IEBC act will then be signed into law. We see certain things happening that would be direct demands of this particular movement.
I think.
Does it matter if there's a desire to have them done, or fear that you'll be hounded out of office if you don't?
When I was last here, I recall saying that the prescription going forward is more and more economic pain. And I want to use the words of a famous political lobbyist and advisor called James Carvell. He was a big campaigner for Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was then running against the first George Bush 1. And people are asking, George Bush seems to have done quite a bit in terms of his worldwide the US vis-a-vis the world. So what was the problem? Why were people rejecting him so much? And James Carvell said, it's the economy, stupid, it's the economy. It's the economy, stupid, it's the economy. No, this is not about governance and pure simple things. You think now because IBC is going to be put, the revolution feeling is gone? You think the Ruto must go slogan will go because he has done IEBC? No. It's the economy. It's the economy. It's the economy. And that's one thing you must all digest. The pain going forward is even worse. So he is responsible for this bad economy, and Kenyans are not going to take it. It doesn't matter whether he puts IABC, it doesn't matter whether he cuts his expenses. In fact, they are going to get a whole issue here now as what is the catalyst to development.
So you say
because you see, economically, he has two twin evils, which is the worst thing you can ever have in an economy. Any economist will tell you. The twin evils of inflation and recession. So, for example, he says prices were high the other day for things have come down.
Yep.
Simple monetary tools, monetary policy tools. All you do, right, is simply remove liquidity from the market. So central bank asks bank to increase their cash ratio, interest rates go up, right? You remove liquidity. So goods start looking for where there is money. What is the price level? So they start coming down. But what you get is that we all start saying we don't have money in our pockets, right? And if we are running companies, we can't pay wages. Overdrafts are too expensive. Getting a loan is too expensive to expand your business. So you fast-paced recession. We're already going through recession. Now you really fast-pace it. If you allow liquidity, you have a high cost of goods, right? And you may slow down recession. But in this case, you will not, right? The only tool he has, right, to stop these two twin evils is to reduce taxation. And he cannot reduce taxation because, as per the figures I've seen this morning on how much KRA has received, almost 80%, is 77.5, almost 80% of that taxation is going to one item called debt. And it's not going to decrease this following year. 2025 is increasing. 2026 is increasing. 2027 is increasing. So, my friend, he does not have a solution. And since he doesn't have a solution, and he said, I don't know how he draws his figures, says, I'm going to borrow another 1 trillion. Who has given him permission to borrow another 1 trillion? Is that in the budget? Where is this permission? He just draws figures. You mean he decides as he wishes? To do what? Okay? To do what?
If I were to believe what you've said, that he doesn't have a solution, does that mean that no solution exists?
No, there is a solution, but he can't make it. It's too painful for him. It's too painful for him. The man actually is going to fail dismally before your eyes. The solution here, as we've been saying for 2 years, is to address debt. And he has two choices. He's tried over taxation, it has failed. He's tried over borrowing, it has failed. This year he has borrowed 1.8 trillion. 1.8 trillion, when Parliament only passed 351 billion. All right? This man has only got two choices: to default on this debt, and I say specifically that this debt is illegal and we should be calling it odious. Remove it from our books, remove it from pain that we are facing every day. But he cannot do that.
Why?
Because he is partly responsible. He was in government when this odious debt was taken from 2013. And there are two things that started this process. You see, many people are not understanding that our Constitution 2010 and the Public Finance Management Act brought in financial controls. The Constitution has a whole chapter on public finance management. Now, this is different to economics. This is public finance management. There are many economists who talk, but they do not know public finance management. It is anchored in our laws. It is here in our Constitution. And if you read it, the summation is that these are controls on our money. Because before that, it was very amorphous in something called financial controls and regulations before the new Constitution. These are controls, the do's and don'ts. You can't do this, you can't do this. All right? Very simple. And if you deviate from law, are you not called a criminal?
Mm-hmm.
It's black and white. There's no gray area. So these are controls. And the foundation of the malfeasance of ODS debt started in 2013 when the Uhuru Ruto government introduced something called Supplementary 3. It's the first time it has ever happened. Supplementary 2, sorry, not 3. Supplementary 2.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That budget can have, 1, 2 supplementaries. And in that supplementary 2, they introduced something that has never been done before. New projects. New projects. If you read the article in the Constitution on supplementary, it is purely and simply an extension of money no more than 10% of the original budget. In other words, if you had costed in the budget a project for a road that, let us say, was 100 million shillings, and you found, because of some circumstances, costs went up, you, as the ministry, presented a proposal to be taken to Parliament in a supplementary to increase the costing of that project of no more than 10%. So 110 million.
Mm-hmm.
That is what the supplementary budget is supposed to be. But here in supplementary 2, they introduce whole new projects, like a whole new budget.
From 0 to 100.
From 0 to 100. Okay? That was the first.
Mm-hmm.
The second, because you must understand intent. The second was that they introduced amendments to the consolidated fund. The consolidated fund in the Constitution says it is the only account that all revenues must be received and expended. One account is called 10,3987. Okay?
That's the account number.
That's the account number. One account.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The Constitution is very explicit. And the only other alternative is if they are funds that have been created by Parliament, such as Petroleum Levy Fund.
Yeah.
Right? Which can have other accounts.
Another account. Okay.
Now, what they purported to do, and this bill was presented by the majority leader at the time, a bill sanctioned by the Treasury and the Attorney General at the time. They purported to amend the Constitution on consolidated fund and create in the PFM law, an act of Parliament, different accounts, different reasons why the Treasury can open different accounts. How do you amend the Constitution?
How did they do
Through
that?
an act of Parliament.
How did they do that?
That's what they did.
So there was a PFM Amendment Act
Yes.
that was taken to Parliament.
Yes.
What did it amend?
It amended that you do not have to have one account under which proceeds are received.
So you can have consolidated A and consolidated B, or
You can have however myriad of accounts.
and
In
none,
fact,
and none of
what
them
is
will
so
be
interesting,
consolidated.
it actually said that you can have accounts that go to the extent. I'll give you an example. Disbursements directly to suppliers.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of external loans or external government securities, pre-negotiated expenses solely for borrowing. It can be paid to fees, commissions, expenses, financial arrangers directly, managers, book runners, fiscal agents, trustees, paying agents, exchange agents, information agents, syndicated agents, clearing systems, listing agents, stock exchanges, rating agencies, and other expenses. In other words, money does not have to come to the consolidated fund.
It can go to these other accounts.
It can just go to any paid out how it wants without controller of budget's approval. That's what it means.
Okay.
Because the controller budget deals with the consolidated accounts.
Let me see if I get this right. So what you're saying is before this amendment, there's the account called the consolidated fund.
Yes.
And all monies, even if you go and borrow money from China Exim Bank, from AFDB, from the Eurobond, from wherever, World Bank, IMF, it comes here and then it leaves here to go now to the budgeted
that is the law
of expenditure.
That is the law.
And then the amendment said that the money it can be paid out before it gets into the consolidated fund.
Yes.
So we can get money from, let's say, Jimi Wanjigi and associates lending money to the government of Kenya through whatever agreement. The money can go into Ndu account and pay supplier Eric.
Yes.
Without necessarily getting first into the consolidated
account. Correct.
I see.
And in the consolidated account, the controller budget, right, oversees the implementation of the budget. So if she is to approve any removal of funds, all right, it has to be a line item on the budget. So they avoided her signature.
Okay, you'll tell us then if you have information on this kind of transactions. But let's take a break then. It's 26 minutes to 9. Jimi Wanjigi is our guest this morning. We've been calling you very many things. But you're party leader, Safina.
No, I'm not party leader, Safina. I was the presidential aspirant for Safina. The party leader of Safina is Paul Muite.
It's still Paul Muite.
It's still Paul Muite. We have not had elections yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Presidential aspirant Safina in the last election. Businessman, and many people are calling you to the People's Finance Minister. We are talking about the current state of affairs, and we'll gravitate this conversation towards a debt audit. You've been calling for a debt audit. The president has responded, and he has initiated a move that will start auditing this debt. You'll tell us what you think about that.
Yeah.
Back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Baba boy, gas imeisha, shopping imeisha, na ujue tokens bado zinalia.
Msupa, nipe mbao na 20 minutes.
Mbao, like 20 bob. 20 minutes, kwani kuna nini? Na ujue mimi nataka kupika haki.
Jaber, kwani ujui dakika mamilini every 20 minutes, halafu wanapea na 10 million every 20 minutes, na hadi kuna 3 millionaires every hour.
Daka mamili virahisi. Uko na nafasi 3 ya kuwa millionaire kila hour. Usipitwe. Cheza daka. Ushike mita yako sasa. Chagua nambari zako 4 za bahati and win up to 10 million every 20 minutes. Nenda kwenye paybill 440440. Account, spice, amount. Cheza na shilingi 20 hadi shilingi 2,000 na ushinde mamilioni. Daka mita. Kuwa bingwa.
The weather with SpiceFM.
All right, it's cloudy in Nairobi this morning. Currently at 15, we'll see highs of 23. 24 will be the high and mostly cloudy in Nakuru at 14, and it's 14 and cloudy in Nyeri with highs of 23, and 12 and cloudy in Eldoret with highs of 23. Mombasa at 22 is cloudy, highs of 30, and we'll see highs of 29 in a partly sunny Malindi this morning. All right, looking into Kampala this morning, we'll see highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 29 as well in Dar es Salaam. All right, looking into Johannesburg, still at -3, highs of 14, and we'll see highs of 30 in a mostly sunny Mogadishu, 16 and cloudy in Addis, going to highs of 22. Lagos is clear at 24 with highs of 30, and we'll see highs of 30 as well in a mostly cloudy Kinshasa at 21.
Spice up your life.
All right, it is still pretty busy in the city this morning. Let's take a look at what's coming off of Mombasa Road as you then approach Uhuru Highway. So that's going to be busy in bits and bobs here and there. There's some traffic coming off Langata Road that's going towards Raila Odinga Way, so that to watch. On the Thika Superhighway, traffic is still coming in, as well as on Kiambu Road. Into the CBDs, where most of the traffic is trickling in this morning. Jogoo Road Landy is not looking too bad. And then here we have traffic coming off the Eastern Bypass, and it is an eyesore. It's terrible, actually, right about now, as you're looking at North Airport Road coming in from Cabanas. Then some of that is going to spill over towards Outer Ring. There's inbound traffic on Outer Ring as well. So if you can avoid it, do. On this other side of Mombasa Road, not looking too bad. Well, think about that. Let's talk on SpiceFM. KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
22 minutes to 9. Our conversation continues. Jimi Wanjigi is in the house. As we were taking the break, you were saying, all right, so some of these things that were happening then, which led to, for example, amendment to the PFM Act that says you can now make out payments without necessarily having to come through the consolidated fund. What's the effect of that?
Please call it illegal amendments to the Constitution through the PFM Act. Because it's you cannot amend the Constitution through an act of parliament.
For something to be called unconstitutional, that's a court of law that has done that. Has any court of law
that is exactly what they have done.
What?
Amend that section of Article 206 of the Constitution, which reads as follows. There is established the consolidated fund.
Okay.
Into which shall be paid all money raised or received by or on behalf of the national government, except that A is reasonably excluded from the fund by an act of parliament and payable to another public fund established for a specific purpose. That is now like petroleum levy fund. Okay? Or B may, under an act of parliament, be retained by the state organ that received it for the purpose of defraying the expenses of a state organ. That's A&E.
Okay.
All right?
Yes.
2 reasons.
Yep.
Now, in 2014, they amended to add in the PFM Act C and D. Remember I said A, B? Then in PFM, they add C and D. Which reads as following. Disbursed directly to the suppliers where the loan is a government-to-government loan and is raised for the purpose of financing goods and services provided by a supplier outside Kenya. That becomes C. And D, this is in PFM, take note.
Yep.
And D, in the case of an external loan or external government security applied, in part, to pay at closing pre-negotiated expenses, all right, associated solely and exhaustively with the borrowing, including but not limited to the fees, commissions, expenses of lenders, financial arrangers, managers, book runners, fiscal agents, trustees, paying agents, exchange and information agents, syndicated agents, clearing systems, listing agents, stock exchanges, rating agencies, and other expenses of a similar nature arising from the external loan or external government security.
Okay.
C and D were added
in the amended PFM Act.
In the PFM Act.
Okay.
And they do not exist in the Constitution.
Okay. What was the effect of that?
The effect of that is that you now avoid the consolidated fund.
Okay.
For the receipt of funds.
Okay.
And the disbursement of funds.
Okay.
And once you do that, you avoid the budget because there's no item that can be removed from the consolidated fund that is not in the budget. And the budget is the appropriations bill, which is passed by Parliament, which has line items. Okay? This is for salaries. This is for a development project called a road in Kitui. Okay? So on and so forth.
So, Jimmy, I almost hear you saying then that the creation of these accounts outside of the consolidated fund account have been done deliberately in order to avoid whatever kind of budget query would be made on the account if funds were dispersed from it for whatever reason.
It was the foundation of a fraud.
Okay.
This is how you do fraud.
But this is a law in the Republic.
What do you mean it's a law?
Hold on.
It is not a law.
It's an act of parliament, Jimmy.
No, it is not a law.
Parliament is law.
I'm sorry. You cannot call an illegal law a law.
Nobody has declared it illegal.
Let me ask.
No competent authority, Jimmy, has declared
but
it
illegal.
But let's deal.
I have read for you the Constitution of Kenya.
You've read the act.
I've read the Constitution of Kenya.
And the PFM.
Under Article 206.
Yes.
That's the Constitution of Kenya.
Yes.
And it says, as I put, one. Please understand this. There is established a consolidated fund into which shall be paid all money raised or received by and on behalf of the national government, except A, if there is a fund through an act of parliament, like petroleum levy fund.
Can I go to my question?
B, full stop. A and E.
Can I go to my question?
Yes.
Okay. So the PFM Act is amended and introduces C and D. Okay? Does the Auditor General have access to C and D? Can the Office of the Auditor General also audit money paid out through C and D, like you read? These are monies that are paid, agents, fees, arrangers. If you've arranged for Kenya to get some financing,
that list is
and all so on and so forth. Does the Auditor General have visibility into those payments?
They have no visibility into these payments, but they have visibility into the debt payments commensurate to any of this through the consolidated fund. Because all debt payments are made from the consolidated fund. So you can pay these how you want, but they are booked in the consolidated fund as a debt. Right? And they are paid out as a debt.
And yet the money.
So the controller of budget should, yes?
The monies received are not registered in the consolidated account.
Yes.
There's an act that brought into being C and D.
Yes.
Now, you say it is illegal.
Yes.
Before we carry on, I just want you to walk us through this thing. Why is it illegal?
Why is what illegal?
The act that enabled, the amendment that enabled C and D to actually exist.
Because you cannot amend the Constitution of Kenya through an act of parliament.
How do you amend the Constitution of Kenya?
Through a constitutional amendment, which needs 2/3 of the House to pass.
And we didn't see that happen?
No. They did not do that. What they did was amend the Constitution of Kenya through an act of parliament, which simply needs a majority.
Majority can be one.
Can be one.
So the illegality...
And it does not even have a limitation of how many there. There could have been 40 or 50. What's a quorum? 60 in the House? And that's all they did.
Have a quorum?
Yes, have a quorum and pass it. And have a majority from that quorum. Yes. Whereas with a constitutional amendment, you have to have a constitutional majority in that House. First and foremost, numbers. And then you need a majority. 2/3. 2/3 majority to pass it.
And that didn't happen.
That did not happen. So the minute you're adding C and D, where the Constitution stops at B, Constitution only has A and B, how do you add C and D as an extension of the Constitution through Public Finance Management Act? This is criminality of the highest order.
And this was enacted in the...
I can tell you that. And I'll stand up anywhere. And anybody who passed this was part of delivering it is a criminal.
Jimmy, my pushback to you will remain until and unless you go to court.
No, my
and
friend.
the court declares...
This is simple logic.
It's logic, yes.
It's simple logic.
But there's a way even our Constitution says what shall declare something illogical and illegal. And this is a court of law.
There is enough
precedence.
Not been, Eric,
it has not
there is enough precedence on this.
This law.
This has been attempted in very many things.
Of the law have not been declared unconstitutional.
No, but
See, that's true.
I will push back on you.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, if the Constitution reads A and B.
A says, except money that A is reasonably excluded from the fund by an act of parliament and payable into another public fund established for a specific purpose.
Yes.
Now, C is a specific purpose. D is a specific purpose.
No.
But let's move on. I want to come back.
C are not funds. C and D are not funds. They're not funds. C and D are not funds.
Okay.
So let's be very clear here. For example, they created the housing fund the other day. One of the reasons the housing levy was knocked down, right, is because there was no collection for this item.
There was established fund in law.
No established fund. So they created a fund.
Yes.
So that fund, right, can avoid the consolidated fund. It is part of A. the housing fund. It is part of A. You cannot have an addition to the constitution through a Public Finance Management Act. What I'm saying is that it's so ridiculous and so obvious. Even, I'm sorry, you cannot defend it, Eric. You can't even say we need to go to court. I mean, this is obvious. Anyone can go to court.
Article 2062. Money may be withdrawn, because this is now C&D is about withdrawal, right? Money may be withdrawn from the consolidated fund. Only,
you're now talking about withdrawn.
Yes. See, that's what you're saying. The payments. This is not a fund coming into the money payment to agents and arrangers. Money may be withdrawn in accordance with Article 222 or 223 or C as a charge against the fund as authorized by this Constitution or an Act of Parliament. The truth is, it has to come out of the fund.
It has to come out from
the consolidated fund.
Correct.
Okay.
Because that's where it's received.
Now, you are explaining the effect of establishing this C&D and what then happened and how that would lead to, how that has led to the trouble that we are in right now. So give us with practical examples. So for instance,
that's very good.
Where did the money go without coming into this, and the control of budget was sidestepped, and the Auditor General was not able to then establish exactly who these ones are?
So I have with me a special audit report by the Auditor General on the proceeds and utilization of the Eurobond. All right?
Yes.
Now, it's a very interesting section here which talks about receipt. Receipt of this money. All right? Very interesting. So, just to remind our viewers, the Eurobond that was floated 10 years ago that you saw William Ruto trying to refinance to pay the other day was taken in 2014, 10 years ago. And the first ticket was $2 billion through JP Morgan Chase, and then tap sales of about 815 the end of that year through Citibank. So the Auditor General does a report because we had all made a lot of noise at the time about it. And he says that when it comes to receipts, the first Eurobond, right, was received, the first payment of Eurobond, there was $2 billion from JP Morgan Chase. $1 billion proceeds, $604 million went to pay a syndicated loan that had been taken by the Kibaki regime. And that went straight overseas to pay that syndicated loan. I remember it was Barclays Bank.
Okay.
It went straight
from. It did not go through the consolidated fund.
From
JP Morgan Chase. Straight to.
Okay.
And then he says the balance of that, $395 million, equivalent at the time to 34 billion shillings, was sent directly to the consolidated fund account, 10,3987. All right? That's a consolidated account.
The Kenyan consolidated account.
Yes, in CBK.
Okay.
It is called a check account number 1, 10,3987. All right? That was on July the 3rd, 2014. Okay? Now, we questioned what happened to the second $1 billion. We asked, where is that $1 billion? They said, oh, they kept it until September.
Jimmy, just hold on.
Who said?
Excuse me. Did we acknowledge receipt of that money?
Now, that's a very good question. The 395.
No, the 395.
The 395.
The balance of the $1 billion.
Thank you very much for reminding me about that. There was complete acknowledgement of the receipt of that money. In fact, we have letters from CBK, and I have them here with me, that even notify the Treasury of receipt of that money, right, through a SWIFT transfer, tabulating its transfer, number one. Number two, a letter from CBK to the Treasury talking about the exchange rate they have used to transfer that money from dollars to Kenya shillings.
Okay.
Right? Signed by officials from CBK. Now, on the 395. Then we asked, and at the time we were making a lot of noise about Eurobond. Raila Odinga had made some noise and so on. We asked, what happened to this other one of 1 billion from JP Morgan Chase? According to the Auditor General's report, he says that on the 10th of September, the central bank received proceeds of 999, almost $1 billion, right, into sovereign bond account number, CT. Now they've created a new account called sovereign account number 8,212,764.
This is called a sovereign bond account.
Sovereign bond account 8,212.
Domiciled in the central bank.
Yes.
And received this 999 billion.
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
a million.
Now, on this particular amount, yes, $1 billion.
Yes, Kenya shillings 999 billion, right?
No, it was actually equivalent to about 88 billion shillings.
Shillings, okay, all right. At that time.
At that time.
Okay.
Now, on this one, the SWIFT transfer that was provided is redacted.
Okay.
It does not show entry
source.
It shows source, exit from JP Morgan Chase, but it does not show, the rest is all blackened out.
What is
Right?
the rest?
In other words, a SWIFT transfer shows how it moves from one bank
to the other.
Intermediary
right up to
Final.
deposit. To which account?
And funds.
Yes, deposited to
Yes.
this account.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Here it shows an exit from JP Morgan, and then the rest of the SWIFT is blackened out. We have the copy. It is completely redacted.
Okay.
Yes, no, you look surprised, but it is blackened.
Okay.
And this was provided by Rotich, the minister at the time. It is completely blackened.
What would be the reason to redact it?
Even the final account?
That is a big question.
Yes.
Now, on this one, to add to CT's question, there is no communication that was provided that showed central bank writing to the treasury saying we are in receipt of these funds. That one does not exist. There is no communication where central bank is writing to treasury say we have used this particular exchange rate and debited your account so much either.
Okay. This account, sorry.
Yes.
Jimmy. This 8,212,764 is another account that was created. This is all coming from the backdrop of what we established before.
Yes.
That received this 88 billion. Right?
Yes.
Can we see anywhere where any of these funds left this account? And if they did, there must be a narrative as to what it was for. Can we see anything like that?
Now I'll carry on.
Okay.
Let me carry on to the third one. Now, in December, right?
Of the same year.
Of the same year.
2014.
You have now what are called the tap sales.
What are tap sales?
Those are tap sales. Those are like extra demand, right? For the same Eurobond. Right? So you say, okay, there was a lot of bidding. So we had only wanted 2 billion, but there were many people who wanted it.
Who had offered.
So let's just, extend it.
Take some extra.
So they extended.
Okay.
And they did this now through Citibank. And through Citibank, they extended to the extent of $815 million. All right? Now there, Central Bank again provides the SWIFT transfer of money coming from Citibank to Central Bank. That one is not redacted.
Consolidated fund.
No. To a new account again.
Yeah, what
Called sovereign bond account
number 2.
10,212,764.
Okay.
Remember the other one was 8,000?
8,000, yeah.
212,764.
Yeah.
This one is 10,212,764. On this one also, there is communication we have that was provided by Rotich that shows there was the transfer of this money, okay, the exchange rate transfer and deposit into this particular account.
Jimmy, are we saying that the amount we're talking of here, have we reached 2.8 billion now?
Yes, so-called.
Because of the original 2.
Yes, and now 800.
And then there's this other overflow that you had a nickname for. What is it called again?
Tapsins.
Yeah, that one, okay. Another 800 million US. So this bond was never 2 billion, it was 2.8 billion.
It was 2.8 billion.
Okay, carry on.
Okay. Now, remember, there's a new account that has been created.
So we have 3 accounts that have received the Eurobond so far.
3 accounts have received the
consolidated.
Yes.
10,000 and 8,000.
Then sovereign bond
sovereign
account.
bond A, sovereign bond B.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, what is very interesting thereafter, which is mind-boggling, is that you then have a series of letters that are commissioned by officials at the central bank, where they purport to be transferring money from this account 10,212,764 to the account 10,03987, which is account number 1, sovereign consolidated account. Okay, not sovereign, consolidated fund account.
So the money is coming from the sovereign A and B into consolidated.
Yes.
Okay, hold on. Let's go into the news. You'll tell us about that.
Okay.
Remember, the gist of this conversation is the conversation around a forensic audit of our 11 or so trillion shilling debt. Jimi Wanjigi is our guest. Keep it here, 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. This is the news wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Police in Bungoma are holding a self-proclaimed preacher who was found in possession of human body parts in his vehicle. Officers from Abuja East said the body parts were found stashed in a carton by car wash attendants in Bungoma's Masehu Market. The suspect, identified as Levis Simiu, is said to be a pastor at a local church in Ndevisi. An attendant was cleaning the boot only for him to notice a protruding human leg partly burnt and resting atop other parts. The DCI added that police were later called onto the scene. The body parts have been taken to Abuja Hospital morgue for further analysis. And 2 people have died in separate accidents in Kirinyaga County. Kirinyaga West Police Commander Moses Koskei said one of the accidents happened along the Sagana-Kagio Road, with the second incident happening along the Mwea-Embu Highway. In the first incident, a pillion passenger died after a motorbike collided with a Sagana-bound car at Kahiro area in Ndia constituency. The rider escaped with serious injuries on the head and multiple fractures. He was rushed to Sagana Sub-County Hospital and was later transferred to Kerugoya Hospital. The body of the deceased was taken to Kibugi Funeral Home in Kitus. In a separate incident, a boda rider was crushed to death at Ngurubani Thiba Bridge along the Mwea-Embu Highway. Police are searching for the driver of the vehicle that hit the boda rider. 3 witnesses are scheduled to start testifying against cult leader Paul Mackenzie and 94 other suspects this week. The court has scheduled witness testimonies for 4 days this week, from Monday to Thursday. Additional testimonies will be heard from July 22nd to 25th. Mackenzie and co-accused are facing charges related to 13 acts of terrorism connected to the deaths of more than 436 people whose bodies were exhumed from Shakahola Forest. Nominated MCA Barnes Kialo Wambua, who was reported missing since Saturday, has resurfaced days after his alleged abduction by police officers. The MCA was seeking treatment at a hospital in Makindu, where he spoke to the media about his reported kidnapping. He claimed to have been abducted by people who introduced themselves as police officers from Embu. According to the MCA, the detectives told him they were hunting down people believed to be inciting anti-government protests journalists in the country. He also claimed to have been released by his abductors after begging them to let him go. Suna West MP Peter Masara has told off legislators proposing the scrapping of the National Government Constituency Development Fund, saying that such proposals are not in the interest of the majority of Kenyans. Masara, who was speaking at Oruba Primary School during the unveiling of a new classroom, said CDF is the only fund that has supported development across the country. Masara said every person in Kenya can testify that they have benefited from a project funded by CDF and like other funds. And speaking about the CS of Transport, Kipchumba Murkomen, he has opened up on several expensive things that he owns. The CS, who has been in the eye of a storm for allegedly possessing extremely expensive items, has clarified that some of the estimates given by Kenyans on his watch and shoes are exaggerated. Murkomen, however, admitted that he owns one of the most expensive watches, including one retailing at 900,000 Kenya shillings. The CS also revealed that his most expensive shoes retail between 70 to 80,000. He also has a belt whose price oscillates between 40,000 to 50,000. On ties, the CS has his collection whose price range from 15 to 20,000 Kenya shillings. And in the international scene, Liberia's President Joseph Boakai has announced that he'll slash his salary by 40%. His office said he hoped to set a precedent for responsible governance and demonstrate solidarity with Liberians. Government salaries have been under intense scrutiny recently as Liberians complain about the rising cost of living. Around 1 in 5 people live on less than 1 shilling, that is $2 a day, in the West African countries. Mr. Boakai revealed in February that his annual salary was $13,400. The cut will bring it down to $8,000. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, so what's happening? It's a few minutes after 9 o'clock. We'll be coming out of traffic hour in no time. It's a bit of a sprinkle here and there in the city. So it's going to slow folks down in some areas, but we're not saying that traffic has been an issue today. Still dealing with a little bit of that left on the thicker superhighway coming out of traffic hour earlier than normal or earlier than usual. And as you come past Survey through towards the Pangani Tunnel, that's where it looks a bit sticky. Also, right around Muranga Road, then getting towards the roundabout there's some traffic. On Limuru Road, also, we're still seeing that some of that as you come past the KTTC. Also, on the Eastern Bypass, there's some traffic as you head towards Outer Ring at the junction, and that looks a little bit crazy right now. We're going to keep an eye on things and let us know also from your neck of the woods what's popping. Let's talk SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
7 after 9, we are on to the final hour of The Situation Room this morning. How are you doing? Welcome. Tonight, if you'd like to watch the semi-final tonight between Spain and France,
yes,
or if you'd like to watch tomorrow semi-final between England and
Netherlands.
Okay, how do you do that?
You, very easily, you can log on to www.showmax.com. Right, so you ask what? Yes, you can actually watch the live matches on your mobile phone just for 500 shillings. It's not too late for you to pay today to actually get that done so you can watch those matches later on tonight or right into the evening.
Yes,
all right?
yes.
So it's live viewing of the final, of the semi-finals and all the matches really in the Euro. And as we watch Africa bring this thing home, we can actually do that just because you logged on, you registered, you paid, and then you watched. Showmax.
Kabisa,
Showmax.
just like that.
Yes.
Tell us also about the Aga Khan University Hospital Specialty Care Center.
You'll get it eventually, don't worry. It's Specialty Care Center, the Roy Sambo Specialty Care Center. It's at Jewel Plaza on the Roy Sambo roundabout, right on the roundabout. And it's the Aga Khan University Hospital that said, you know what, not everybody can come here, but we can supply, or rather we can provide the quality care that you need next to where you live and also next to where you work. So specialists on hand to take care of you, whether it is dialysis treatment or chemotherapy or endoscopy that you might be looking for, even surgeries. All of these things are carried out right there because world-class healthcare can be delivered here and now.
Yep. And if you're looking and shopping for the best health insurance, think no further than Jubilee Health Insurance. It's the most experienced player in the market in more than this country of ours. And they have very many products, whether you're thinking about your individual product as Chama, as a family, as, a global traveler. All those are available. Just go to www.jubileeinsurance.com. That's www.jubileeinsurance.com. And then see all the options they have. Speak to them. Jimi Wanjigi is still here. He has had 60 minutes to think about the proverb. Now we'll hear his interpretation of the proverb from...
I'll tell you at the end.
Sauto?
I'll tell you at the end.
Sao Tome Principe.
That one.
Principe.
I'll tell you at the end.
Principe.
Let us go on these numbers.
Okay.
Jimmy's running away from the interpretation.
No. I want us to not get lost with these numbers.
We are not getting lost, Jimmy. We know. We
CT.
We can chew gum and walk.
I want you to do...
Especially on a Tuesday morning.
I'm telling you. CT, I want you to take out your pen. And your calculator.
Pen. Okay. Pen.
CT still at pen.
Yeah, now I'm always at pen.
Yeah. Now, as you know, the signatories to the exchequer account, the consolidated fund account in the central bank, are the Auditor General and his deputy. All right? Auditor General. Accountant General, sorry. Accountant General and his deputy.
Okay.
Banandungu and his deputy. Called Kilinda.
They are the signatories. Or they were, or they still are.
They are both still there.
Okay.
Those two officers are the signatories.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, so they purport to show us a series of letters transferring money from the special bond account, sovereign bond account, to the consolidated. To the consolidated fund account.
Okay.
10,3967. So it starts 15 September. I'll tell you why it's purported. So 15 September, we have a letter provided.
September which year?
2014. Giving instructions to the central bank to transfer proceeds of sovereign account 10,212,764 to exchequer account 10,03987, and this is for an amount of 25 billion shillings. So please calculate 25.
Okay.
Same sort of instructions. 19th September 2014, 25 billion shillings. October 2014, 15 billion shillings. January 2015, 21st January 2015, 25 billion shillings. 16th March 2015, 25 billion shillings. Same instructions. 2nd June 2015, 30 billion shillings. And 26th June 2015, 17 billion 300 million, I guess. Yeah? So maybe you can do the sum of that.
The sum of that.
That is 162 billion.
162 billion. Right? Now, if you do the sum of the so-called transfer of money that came in September, equivalent cash shillings was 400 billion. 88 billion, 400 million. And the one from Citibank was 800 million. How much is that?
So that is 162.2 billion.
And the other one was what?
162.
And the other account was?
Which one?
What did you calculate from the letters?
The money, 162.
162.
So close.
Yes, very close. Give or take 400
So the
billion
money
shillings.
from...
Now, all the instructions are from account 10,212 764.
Sovereign bond 1.
Sovereign bond 1.
Okay.
No, 10,000 sovereign bond 2.
2.
Yes.
Okay.
8,000 is the one.
One of Citibank.
Yes, yes.
So this is the Citibank top sales account.
It is actually the sum total of the so-called one from the one of September that went to 8,212, and the one of Citibank that came from that went to 10,212.74.
That's why you said purported.
Purported. You see,
did the money actually
the Auditor
get
General?
transferred?
Yes, the Auditor General has put an account here. And you can't expect the Auditor General to be making typos or mistakes or numbers.
No, we can't.
He has specifically put an account here for the proceeds of almost $1 billion that came 10 September as 8,212.764.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
That is equivalent to, as you said, is 88, right?
Yes.
Now, the second one of Citibank is the one that is 10,212.764. But all the transfer letters are from 10,212.764. There is no transfer here of 8,212.764. Yet the amounts are equivalent
to one another.
To the total.
To the total. Do you see the fraud?
So,
it's not possible. So those are purported letters. That's all we can call them. Because why did it have to enter that account in the first place for you to then issue letters thereafter?
Jimmy, are you saying that the letters were cooked?
100% to cover up. Nothing else.
What did the Auditor General find?
Where is the transfer, swift transfer of that $1 billion that was in JP Morgan Stanley in September? We've never seen it.
Because if the money...
We have never seen it.
All right. Because...
Where is the exchange rate confirmation? We've never seen it.
Jimmy, I want to make a connection so that we can understand why then you would interrogate why there is no swift transfer. Because before, we have seen that there's a transfer, albeit redacted, but at least you can see that there's money that has gone from here to here.
Yes.
Now, there's supporting documents and letters saying that money left and came, but you cannot see a transfer.
No.
Okay.
And you cannot see confirmation from central bank that they even received that money and exchanged it at a particular rate at the time.
Are they supposed
as
to?
Was the same with the previous one of 300 or so billion,
okay,
and the one thereafter of Citibank.
Are they required to do that?
Yes. Okay. It's like your bank.
Yeah.
How do you receive foreign exchange in your account and they don't tell you what exchange rate they...
Because here we are looking for all kinds of
reasons. They always tell you.
Sure, but we're looking for all kinds of reasons.
They always inform you.
As to why that particular documentation would not be there. Maybe
Correct.
somebody forgot to put it in.
Correct. No, there's no forgetting here. And then number two, which is this account 8,000?
And what?
This is an Auditor General's report.
So what
cannot have mistakes.
What does the Auditor General say about this?
At the end, the Auditor General says the following, and it is instructive that you read his conclusion and recommendation. He says he confirms the proceeds entered the country.
The $2 billion.
No, he does not confirm the amounts.
Oh.
He does not say the amount.
He said the proceeds.
The proceeds.
Okay.
Does not say the amount. Then he says, noted that utilization of the proceeds of Eurobond could not be traced to specific development projects.
Okay.
Now, our law is very clear. PFM.
Borrow for development.
You borrow in the medium term for development.
Okay.
Medium term is anything beyond 2 years.
Yeah.
So
this was a 10-year loan.
Wait, are we saying that amount of money that was transferred to pay a debt that had been incurred in the Kibaki government then was illegal?
Yes. You cannot transfer like that. It should have come to the consolidated fund and then transferred. But it was actually an illegal debt. You cannot, there's nowhere where our laws
allow you to borrow
to pay a
debt. There's nowhere in our laws. There's nowhere in our laws where you're allowed to do that.
Okay, so
it was illegal. Okay. It was illegal in its transfer. It was illegal in its acquisition. Purpose.
In the first place.
Yes.
Wait.
And that means that it was not in the budget.
Okay.
So now he goes on to say, the National Treasury explained that these funds are fungible.
What does that mean?
Exchangeable. Exchangeable.
Fungible is English.
Yes, it's English.
Spell
It's not Portuguese.
Fungible. These are his words.
You can funge something up.
You can funge something up.
What does that mean?
Exactly that. You can funge it.
You can, the Treasury creates its own rules.
Meaning you can fake it.
You can fake it. Correct.
Till you make it.
So if I'm faking, I'm funging.
Exactly.
I think these things are fungible.
Fungible. These are his words. Edward
explained. The Treasury explained that these funds were
funged.
Were fungible.
Okay, go on. Finish the sentence.
Furthermore, as identified in this report, some of the funds were expended outside of the government FMS system.
Okay.
No, please explain. What do you mean, okay?
It's not okay.
It can't be okay.
When he says okay,
No,
how are they expended?
I'm saying okay.
Okay.
Go on.
He's not saying it is okay. He's saying, okay, I've heard you. Continue.
Go on.
That's what he means, yes.
He therefore recommends that subsequent issuance of international sovereign bonds be earmarked and be identified to specific development projects.
Exactly.
Now, this was the first one of 2.8. The government, previous government, Uhuru government, took a total of 7
what?
$7 billion Eurobond.
Huh?
7 billion.
In that tenure?
Yes.
In the 9 years?
Yes, 7 billion.
They took 7 billion.
We are just talking about 2.8 here. They took 7 billion.
There's another 4.2 somewhere.
Yes.
Which they also took.
All right.
Where did it go?
It definitely was not earmarked for any specific development project.
Can we see where it went? Because, like I keep saying,
no, it's like in the air. It means it did not even enter. We don't even know whether it entered the consolidated fund.
Then this is my question that I wanted to then ask.
Yes.
Because money just doesn't disappear.
It never does.
It never does.
Do you know where we see it?
People move it.
Do you know where we see it?
And there's a trace of this money. And like I keep saying, if you put billions somewhere, you will see it.
What happens?
So is there a trace of where this money went?
What there is a trace of in the records of government is the payment of those loans, but not the receipt.
So the payment of the loans are what are indicative of what? Yes.
Yes. From the consolidated fund, you see the payments. We are paying heavily.
Okay.
Interest,
but is there
high interest?
Do we have any trace of this additional, say, 4.2 billion ever coming into the country?
And now 4.2 without the tap sales. There was also tap sales.
There was also tap sales. Does the consolidated fund register receipt of these monies?
No. Where?
Okay.
So where? For what purpose?
So this was a special.
For what purpose?
And I'm just asking because
it does not.
I'm going to go to sovereign bonds accounts. These ones also don't register the receipt of this money.
No. For what purpose?
Okay.
Right.
So you see, there have to be a purpose in the budget.
They don't exist. Yeah. You talk about now monies that you actually see in this same documentation in terms of repayment for loans, right? That's what you said. You don't see where the money came, but you can suddenly see that there is money that is being paid back.
Yes.
To whom is it being paid back to? And what does the narrative say about what it was for? Because I would assume, unless I'm naive in my thinking, that when you're paying it back, it would say for development, this, that.
No, it does not say
It doesn't say that.
No, it's not on the budget.
All right. Does it talk about who the money is going back to?
Yes.
Okay. Who does it go to?
It goes to the people that purportedly gave us the loan.
Okay.
All right. Now, that is the big question. Now, what we have here with these external loans is that you have that bracket of Eurobonds, and then you have something called syndicated loans.
Yeah.
Which are also to the extent of $7.2 billion. All right?
taken within the same time that you cannot trace in the budget.
Jimmy.
Yes.
We are going to take a break.
It's necessary.
Yeah. So there's one special audit report, right? This was Okoh did an audit of this specific Eurobond 1. Senor, now you'll tell us, since then, the Office of the Auditor General has obviously audited our accounts. Okay. Whether we have similar audit reports, and now that we're talking about, let's look at our debt and what we are paying, how can we go about it? Right? Yeah. It's 23 minutes past 9. Jimi Wanjigi is here. He's our guest. We want to take this quick break, take a look at the business and traffic, and then we come back and we'll be joined by KTN News after the break.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Business news with Spice FM.
This is the Business Wire, brought to you by Stanbic Bank. I'm Leah Obaga. Kenya has thrown a fresh hurdle on Uganda's direct fuel import scheme, doubling the bond fee for imported consignments destined for Kampala to 5.78 billion shillings at the current exchange rates. Uganda's Energy and Mineral Resources Minister Ruth Nankabirwa said Kenya increased the requirement of the size of bond fees at the Vital Tank Terminal International Storage Facility in Mombasa from 1.92 billion shillings at the current exchange rates, posing a bottleneck to Uganda's hopes of lowering pump prices of the commodity. Eldoret-based textile manufacturer Rivertex posted a 347.6 million shillings loss in the financial year ended June 2023. A new audit shows pushing its cumulative losses to 3 billion shillings, leaving it on the edge even as it operates below factory capacity. Auditor General Nancy Gathungu said the state-owned agency is grappling with numerous challenges and has failed to pay suppliers. That's the Business Wire. I'm Leah Obaga.
Financial tips brought to you by Stanbic Bank. Are online banks safe? The way to look at this is that the bank holds your funds. They then enable you to access the funds online like how you would at a branch. Banks are regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya, and there are stringent rules about how to handle customer funds. There are also people whose intention is to access your funds illegally or fraudulently. Stanbic Bank has put in place measures to ensure your funds are safe. It is critical, though, to remember not to fall for the tricks used by fraudsters. Do not give out your personal information. PINs, OTPs, and personal details are your secret. It is what allows the bank to identify that it is you. Be careful. Karada.
Spice FM Business.
Okay, so what's happening coming out of traffic hour this morning? Not much. The Eastern Bypass, that traffic has more or less dissipated and we're fine getting out to Cabanas. And then out towards Mombasa Road, not a problem here. Traffic on the Thika Superhighway has reduced significantly and we're just looking at a little bit of that left as you come past Survey and then out towards Muranga Road this morning and then onto the roundabout. Westlands looking all right. Coming off of Limuru Road, just a bit of that as you come through towards Gigiri and then out towards Muthaiga. We'll be all right. Let's talk through the morning, guys. Spice FM KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues. Today we are talking about debt audit, odious debt. Jimi Wanjigi is our guest. He has been talking about odious debt for the longest. As part of his presidential campaign in 2022, Jimi Wanjigi actually told the country that he has done his own forensic audit of the Kenya's debt and even published a report, and he called it Kenya Public Debt Heist. And part of that is what you are reminding us today of what you told us 2 years ago.
Correct.
You've told us about this specific Eurobond 1 of 2014. 2 billion plus some top sales of 8.8 billion.
Correct.
So 2.8 billion.
Dollars, take note.
In dollars. And
all these figures are in dollars.
The then Auditor General, Ednah, Okoh, did a special audit of this particular one, and we've seen what he found. Since then, you said the Uhuruto 1 and 2 governments borrowed a total of 7 billion.
Eurobonds.
Dollars. Just the $7 billion.
And they took another 7 billion plus in what are called syndicated loans.
So you're talking 14?
14.
Okay. So
$1 million.
Did Edward
$1 million.
Okoh-
Please take note.
Did Edward Okoh and his successor do audits of
No,
these?
this one specifically on the first Eurobond was because there was a lot of noise at the time.
Political
And
hue
this was a
cry.
special audit done by him. It was even tabled by the majority leader at the time. I think it was Aden Duale in Parliament.
Yes.
But you've seen his comments at the end.
Yes. It was fungible.
It was fungible. Now, Eric, we did our audit. Now, a forensic audit is based on primarily looking for fraud. So you attach the law to any action in terms of money, right? So you look at the law, what does it say about debt? When can a country take debt? When can we take debt and how much can we take debt for? So our laws are very clear. We can only take debt for development in the medium to long term.
Yep.
If we have cash flow problems, right, we can only take a certain percentage. In fact, they say 5% of the last audited accounts, tax returns.
Yep.
So like this year, if you collected 2.2 trillion, you can only take 100 billion cash flow, which must be paid within the same year. And normally they say you can do, in fact, it's clear there, an overdraft at CBK.
Right.
Right? But any other debt must go towards a project, a development project.
Yes. Okay.
That is in the budget. All right? Now,
So the project must be provided for in the budget.
in the budget, and in fact, in the budget, the debt is actually shown. Anything outside of that is illegal.
Okay.
Now, just to give you a synopsis, because this is very tragic, people need to understand why they are being told to raise taxes. It's because there's a monster in the room. All right?
Yeah.
And it is this payment of this debt. It is the monster. There's no other monster. Just to give you a historical analysis, when Moi handed over power to Kibaki, of every 100 shillings of tax revenue, only 28 was going to the payment of debt. And at the time, Moi had a tax revenue of 170 billion shillings.
170 billion
170 billion.
is what we are all paying.
Yeah, is what we're all paying. In 2001, that was the situation.
Right.
When Kibaki handed over to Uhuru Kenyatta, Kibaki had raised revenue to 1 trillion shillings from 170 by expanding the economy, not by raising tax levels, but expanding the economy, removing barriers to growth. And of every 100 shillings of that tax revenue, 18 was going to the payment of debt. So he had reduced it. When Uhuru handed over to William Samoei Ruto, and please, I would like to take note that Ruto was part of that government anyway.
Okay.
Tax revenue had increased to 2 trillion.
From 1.2 into
From 1 trillion of Kibaki in 2013
Yep.
to 2023 to 2 trillion. Right? So it had gone double. But of every 100 shillings of tax revenue, 70 was going
to debt.
To debt.
From 18.
You saw William Ruto earlier this year even confirmed that.
Yep.
But he tried to get out of my 100 shilling analogy and making it 10 shillings.
Okay.
But he said the same thing. 7 shillings is going to
debt.
Of every 10 going to debt. Today, as we are talking, from the numbers I've seen from KRA yesterday, KRA are saying they've collected 500 billion in 1 month. I think, to me, that's like fantasy. Right? In the month of June, they've collected 500 billion. I think it's like fantasy. They've been collecting about 165 to 170, let's say 170 average per month. But now they collected 500, fine. So they went to 2.4. If you look at debt payments, they're 1.866. So it's roughly 78% today of every 100, 78 shillings of every 100 shillings is going to the payment of debt. In other words, it's getting higher and higher.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Now, when you have that situation, you got to understand that you're now borrowing to eat. You're borrowing to pay salaries. You're borrowing to pay petrol for vehicles of police, right?
Yeah.
You are borrowing for counties, okay?
Yeah.
So you are in big trouble.
Okay.
So the reason he is trying to raise tax is to cover that problem. And now he's unable to do it. Okay? He's unable to do it. Now, he decides he's going to set up a task force because of this public pressure. I think the one thing the president should understand is that he does not have much credibility, right, with the public. And he cannot purport to do anything right now on his own. Decide he's picking names, he's deciding on which way. I'm sorry. If he does not understand that right now is a moment of consultation and wide consultation, he does not have the monopoly. He has had that free will all this time, and he has sent us into a bigger ditch. He does not have the luxury to decide on his own. He must consult. And it seems something that's prevalent with this regime. Every time they do something, it is being contested in court. It's like they don't seek legal advice properly. There seems to be some problem within. So he should not have done a task force. I have done that audit. What he should do is take from what has probably happened in the past, call a judicial commission of inquiry, make it public, like the Goldenberg one, and talk about it being public debt forensic audit. All right? Have a secretariat that includes the Auditor General. And let us all go and present to that judicial inquiry. Given a time frame of maybe a month or two, we can finish this thing. It's very simple. There's nothing hard about this thing. You just look at the law and see what was passed. So, for example, in the last 10 years, the years that we had done the audit under the Uhuru regime, all right, the budget only approved 2 trillion for loans. All right?
Cumulatively.
Cumulatively, in the 2 terms of Uhuru. Right? He took
2 trillion in shillings.
In shillings. Okay. Yes, 2. No, it's good
Yes,
to be clear.
important.
It's 2 trillion.
Kenya shillings.
But outside of the budget, and it says you can only borrow what is in the budget. That is in the Constitution and it's in PFM. But they borrowed 6.4 trillion, which means over 4 trillion above what was approved. In other words, was not on the budget. So you ask yourself, what is going on here? All right?
Okay.
This current government, in the last 1 year, the borrowings that are on the budget are 351 billion shillings. Foreign and external loans. William Samoei Ruto has gone to borrow 1.8. All right? Which is roughly 1.5 trillion above what is in the budget. Who gave him that permission? Who gave the Treasury that permission? And anything you do not do that is lawful means that you are doing criminality. You're doing criminality. And I said very clearly here. And you can question me till the cows come home. That is criminality.
And so
I just want to add, just to give you an overview, summary. You borrow for what is described as the deficit, the difference between expenditure and your income of taxation.
Your projected.
Not your projected deficit.
Yeah.
But your projected deficit must be in line with the law, which is that projected deficit can only be in development. It can't be amorphous at I need to pay a loan, so I just go and borrow. There's nothing like that. Hakuna kitu kama hiyo kwa laws of Kenya. So we did what you call, and the IMF is very good at doing this, what you call a primary balance, which means that you look at the expenditure of a nation, of a government, without debt payments. So we did a primary balance from year July 2013 all the way to June 2023, 10 years. What was the development expenditure? 6 trillion. 6 trillion, they were only going to borrow 2 trillion for that development, by the way, in those years. So 6 trillion. Higher. You take county, how much was it? Salaries of all government.
Yep.
Pensions. What you call operations and management costs. It came to 14.6 trillion. That is an exact number. Higher. Then you say, what has KRA
So
said
14.6 trillion
in 10 years?
for
Those are
development.
expenses.
All expenses.
All expenses of government.
Recurrent
So,
plus.
no. Recurrent plus development. Correct. Recurrent plus development. Without payment of debt.
Okay.
So you remove the payment of debt. It's called primary balance.
Okay.
All right? It comes to 14.6 trillion. Then you say, what were the actual tax revenues from KRA?
At the close of every financial year.
At the close of every financial year. So from July 2023 all the way to July 2013 all the way to June 2023, 10 years.
Yeah.
They came to 13.3 trillion.
KRA.
KRA.
Okay.
That is tax revenue.
Tax revenue.
Yes. So what is the difference there?
1 point something trillion.
1.3 trillion. Correct?
Yes.
1.3 trillion.
Yes.
So if we needed to borrow
That was our deficit
to run our
for 10 years.
Okay.
1.3
3 trillion.
What we are saying, William Ruto has borrowed in this last 1 year outside of the budget.
Is the deficit?
Is the deficit for 10 years. Now, what did we borrow in those 10 years? 7.7 trillion. Are we together?
We are.
So we borrowed 6.4 trillion above what we needed.
For what?
Which is a deficit for the next 10 years. 6.4 trillion we did not need, is not lawful. We do not owe because it's not lawful and never came to us. They cannot show us what that money did.
Okay.
On any budget, they cannot show us.
Jimi.
And that is what you now call odious
debt.
Now, we are paying heavily for this that never came to our benefit. And in Mozambique, citizens went to the court of justice on something similar to our Eurobond. They called theirs a tuna bond that had been provided by big banks such as Credit Suisse and RVM Bank of Russia. Right? The defendants were the government and even parliament. And their laws are not even as good as ours. Public finance laws are not as good as ours. And they won the case. That $2 billion, the citizens won. $2 billion is odious debt.
You go and pay it.
You go and pay it. And Credit Suisse were forced to eat humble pie with RVM and even return money that had been paid for those loans. We have a similar situation, but we are talking about 6+ trillion. But I say that is what was taken outside of the law. Nobody is looking at how much we have paid.
Over time.
Now, during the period of the first audit, which ended in July 2022, we had paid loan repayments of 5.6 trillion. I want you to do your sum again, CT. 5.6 trillion. Those were repayments of loans from our taxes. Kazi mingi. Higher. In the year 2022 to 2023, we paid another 1.4. How much is that? 7.
Yep.
Yes.
This year, we have paid
1.8.
1.8. How much is that?
8.8.
Right. And the government is still telling you owe 11 trillion.
Wololo.
You know, really.
That is
yes, it's never coming down. It's always increasing. In fact, the only reason they are saying it's coming down is because of exchange rate. We have a better exchange rate.
Yeah, but,
okay, but
Jimi, remember we had a bad exchange rate
so
not
you
very
tell
long
me,
ago.
you're correct, and it's going to get there. I think you saw the credit rating of Moody's. Have you seen it? This morning.
It's not good.
It has gone to C, AA.
It is not good.
And remember we said when you hit C, you're heading for default?
Kwisha wewe.
Kwisha wewe. So you're going to see that exchange rate completely change. Now, so we have paid 8.8. 6 we never took for our benefit.
But this is in interest and principal.
Interest and principal. Correct. 8.8. 6 we never took.
6.4, in fact, exactly, we never took, was never to our benefit. It's not on our laws. Okay? And we are being told we still owe 11. Do you know, this is what you call a massive Ponzi scheme. And this Ponzi scheme is our chain. It is our chain. It is our slavery chain, our modern day slavery chain. And until we yank it off, you're going to see no change in this country but pain. And you yank it off this way.
Okay, there we go.
You yank it off this way. What is not in our laws is what is called odious debt. And that we have paid to odious debt, we demand back. And if we analyze that, that means we have no debt. And without debt, that means you can free up the taxpayer from paying debt. You can reduce taxation, but you also avail something very interesting, which is domestic money for us to go and take. Right? There's no law item that says domestic debt is funding anything in development. These bonds and bills, it does not exist. Bonds, which are long-term, have not funded any development project in our budget. We don't know why our banks, and soon we are going to call them out, why our banks are giving our money to our government for bonds that do not exist in the budget. And then our taxes are going to pay those exorbitant interest rates.
Back to the banks.
Back to the banks. This is a Ponzi scheme of some banks here, and they better stop it. They better stop it. They have created oligarchs of themselves at our expense, and they better stop it. Their time is now coming to an end. They better stop it.
Okay. Jimmy, I want to ask a series of questions. Number one, you've given us the primary balance and you calculated it. I said the World Bank is fond of doing this. Have any of our institutions done a primary balance?
Any of our institutions?
Yeah.
Yes. Treasury does so continuously to IMF.
Does it reflect the same thing?
Well, do they publicize it? They don't publicize it to us.
So we don't know?
We don't know.
Okay.
But it's something that is required by IMF consistently. So they know this. What I'm sure they do not say, right, is exactly what that deficit is.
Okay.
I think you saw there, the Auditor General says that they talk about funds being fungible. So we don't know how much fungibility they put in those figures. It seems fungible is a word that is commonplace
can be
by the National Treasury.
Can be replaced.
Yes, can be replaced.
Pun intended. Now, second question. Our Auditor General, over the years of presenting audit reports to Parliament, has the Office of the Auditor General flagged this debt that is taken outside of the law?
Unfortunately, the Auditor General, even though in their terms of reference, they have a forensic audit mandate, and they have done so in various things. For example, they did so on the Mafia House scandal. Okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
They did.
Yes.
They did.
They did a forensic audit on the Mafia House scandal. So they have never done so on the debt. Never. They do this general audit, but not a forensic.
Not forensic audit.
Not forensic audit.
But
the other office is the COB.
Control of budget.
The COB has a very clear mandate. In the Constitution, Article 228(4), the controller of budget shall oversee the implementation of the budgets of the national and county governments by authorizing withdrawal from public funds under Articles 204, 206, 207. Now, that means that the overall budget she oversees.
Yes.
And must give approval for. Now, if she's giving approval for funds to be withdrawn from the consolidated bank fund to pay a debt, it must be clear what that debt did on the budget at some time in history.
Yeah.
And if it isn't, she should not be approving it.
Okay.
So she's also highly responsible here.
Have the controller of budget reports ever raised those issues?
Well, I think you have had them on their show, on your show here.
Reports to Parliament indicating that I declined to authorize this payment, or I authorized this payment with this condition, and the condition was later met or was not met?
I think you've seen various reports over the last year and a half to 2 years on incidences. And you've seen them both escape on the issue of, we don't have transparency on the debt register, and we don't have this, and we are seeing some things and we don't see some things. I think you've had them maybe even here on the show. But at the end of the day, any payment out of consolidated fund, and that I can tell you all debt payments are being done from consolidated fund, have had the approval of the COB.
Okay.
And how did they have that approval when they could not be attached to any budget?
A budget.
Many of them to a budget.
And a project.
Yes.
Question number, I think, 4 now. We have seen the response on the letter from the Law Society of Kenya, and even from others who have made public commentary since the establishment of the task force by the president, have said this is the job of the Office of the Auditor General to audit all our accounts. Do you agree?
It is, as I said, her terms of reference are a forensic audit, but it has never happened. I think this situation is now out of hand.
Okay.
And I think it is beyond the Auditor General. It is beyond William Samoei Ruto. That's why I'm saying it is now a public clamor for open justice. That's why we want a judicial inquiry.
Okay.
Where we can all go and participate, and we all hear and see. And we all debate. And we bring everybody. Some of these accusations I'm making here, I would love them to be in front of the camera answering these questions. I would even love being the one who's questioning them. Right? It is beyond those offices because they do not have credibility.
Okay.
Why has the Auditor General not done it?
Sure. So
and let me advise the president. Do not think you're just going to pick if this is the route that you end up taking. Your stooges to sit on that bench.
Can I ask you, Jimi,
it must be consultative. There's no cover up here. Right? There must be a consensus in this country that this thing which is paining us and destroying generations to come, we're actually attempting to start dealing with it.
I have to ask, Jimi, because Kenya is highly litigious. We know this. I mean, even this task force thing was stopped at court. So people will go to court really quickly to stop. This is something that has been going on for years. And from what you're saying, that to have an open inquiry is
a judicial
one is what would make sense. Why? That going to court, do you think that going to court with this evidence is not sufficient in terms of getting an answer?
It's not sufficient because you have to collect the evidence. The Goldenberg judicial inquiry is a very good example, right? Here you had 3 judges led by, I think it was Justice Bosire.
Yes.
Who had a lot of credibility. And they called up evidence. All right? You had joint secretaries. They called up evidence. Right? And it was public. You were questioned. All right? A lot of settlements were gotten out of that, including Patney having to say, in a sense, that he had made some messes and is giving up this hotel.
Grand Regency.
Grand Regency.
Yeah. So
it was open. We all heard what exactly happened, right? And action was taken. This is a similar situation. And I can tell you, this one I doubt will be questioned in court, right? It's a judicial inquiry. In fact, the Bosire one had, I think, Bosire, I can't remember the second. I think only one was a retired. I think there was Lapelli, a lawyer. And I think I can't remember the third judge, right? Who was a member, in fact, of the judiciary at the time. So this is something the president has power to do. But as I'm saying here, he must not think he can do so unilaterally. It must be consultative. We must generally feel that it is a credible judicial commission of inquiry. It has credible people. And its terms of reference
must be
clear, including a short term to complete. Because this is not difficult. The books are all there. The record is all there. It's not difficult.
It sounds like it would have to be corporate in terms of people coming together.
Yes. I would even want to be summoned. I will appear with my forensic auditors. Okay? We did this in about 4 months or so. All right? 4 to 5 months. Right? And that was, we had to search for the data. Okay? Which was available. It's publicly available. So, this can be complete as an exercise within maybe 3 months. And have a report. This is what is odious, should be suspended. Right? This is what we've paid. And I can tell you at the end of it, judging from what we have already done, because this is the first forensic audit on debt, judging from what we have done, the Kenyans do not owe anybody any money. In fact, we're looking for refund. And those that we owe, that refund from those illegal parties we gave will go to paying them.
Okay.
That's how serious it is.
Okay. So the Busia Commission of Inquiry had 3 members. Chairman was the Honorable Justice Richard Samuel Bosire. The vice chairman was Nzamba Kitonga.
Yes.
The late Nzamba Kitonga. And the commissioner was Peter Lepele.
Okay.
Right? Those 3.
Yes.
And they came up with a report. They handed it over to the president with various recommendations.
And I think you had joint secretaries and all that.
You had joint secretaries in the
So you had a
secretariat.
prosecution. I think you had a private prosecutor.
Yeah.
In that?
Yeah.
Almost
I
like a
remember
private
people
prosecutor.
Like Waweru Gatonye
Correct.
and others
Correct.
were in this.
Were in this.
What would you expect to get out of such a process?
That process
What do
would
you expect
define
to be the outputs?
Oh, it would be very clear. It would define what is called odious. Odious meaning that any debt that was not taken within our laws, right, or has been paid outside of our laws as debt that is illegal to us. Any debt that was taken that did not come to us in any manner or form will be declared illegal. And the culprits will be recommended for charges. Now, if you do that, I can assure you, we have no debt.
Okay.
And we are freed from this monster that is eating 80% today of our tax revenue. The single biggest monster to our tax revenue is one item called debt. 80%, 80 shillings of every 100 it is eating up.
Okay. Once a debt is declared as odious, then what?
Oh, then we are freed. And in fact, wherever we have paid odious debt, we ask for it back. And that's now another process. But we are freed. You imagine, this last year we have paid 1.866 to debt. At that we are freed of that amount. We are paying a similar amount coming this year. We are freed of paying that. My friend, imagine what can happen in terms of development in Kenya.
Absolutely.
What miracle can we not have here? To do a level 6 hospital is about 10 billion. You put one in every county. You imagine the amount of roads. To do 10,000 kilometers of road would mean what?
You'll pay all your
Nobody here will not need this free housing, this housing fund nonsense. Right? People here will never even live in mud huts. All right? And the stimulus it will create, the catalyst it will create to this economy. You will see this jobless, unemployed.
Okay.
You will be amazed with the figure.
So, now show me the difference between a judicial commission of inquiry that has a judge or 2 and a task force that has been set up that has the members that we've seen.
Does that
What's the
task force, in legal terms, I think I will not compete with what the LSK has said.
LSK has basically argued that the function of auditing belongs to the Office of the Auditor General,
Yes.
as established in the
That is
Constitution.
one. I think the other, with what he established, is that he called it a forensic task force.
Yes.
And none of the parties there is a forensic auditor. None of those parties are forensic auditors. I will not even say any of those parties are experts in what is called public finance management. Nancy Onyango is very well reputed in the IMF, but she has never done public finance management here in Kenya. She may be a very good economist. Public finance management. She's actually a monetarist. She has not done public finance management. And there is no forensic auditor in that team.
They can be co-opted by the Secretariat.
No. Where is that terms of reference? If you see the terms of reference in the Gazette notice, there is no such opening. None. No such opening. That to me, in fact, was done either shoddily or part of cover-up.
Okay.
So it has. Let's put it this way: His credibility already now is in doubt. So he should dispense with it.
But then,
I don't even know why they need to continue with the court battle. He should just revoke that Gazette notice.
How would you...
And come back and say we have a tried and tested method called a judicial commission of inquiry. Right? And even seek some consultation on its membership and its terms of reference. There are enough people he can consult with. And you come up with something very credible that we can all buy into. And it must be public, because this is about public money. We all want to go and make submissions. We all want to hear others making submissions.
One nagging argument, if we just take the letter and the statement by the Law Society of Kenya, will still stand.
The Auditor General can be part of that secretariat.
The Constitution does not say that the Auditor General
a judicial commission of inquiry
in another.
A judicial commission of inquiry is a different entity. Is a different entity.
Yes.
And she can be told to do her own forensic audit and submit. Jimi Wanjigi will come with his.
You know, your reference point was the Goldenberg, the Busire Commission. If you looked at the recommendations that they made, the number of people who were censured, the number of people who were prevented from traveling because they had been seen to be complicit, people who were, their guilt was recommended. As I said, it was comprehensive. That the only thing is that not whatever was expected to have been done was not quite done.
Yeah, buana.
But one knew who the players were, something that had never happened before. One knew who had done what. Because by the time Kanyotu's name was coming out,
yes, that was a name nobody ever used to mention.
No, people didn't mention it.
So Jimmy, look at it this way, CT. That was the beginning. Today, with the amount of transparency, everyone will be exposed, and literally the recommended charges will end up seeing people
in jail.
Our time is up, Jimmy. Thank you very much for joining us. So your call is a judicial commission of inquiry to do a forensic audit of our debts, declare any debt that's outside of the law odious, and recommend that we don't repay it.
Correct.
Thank you very much. Jimi Wanjigi has been our guest. Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation, 10 a.m. Have a good day.